Welcome to the Origin Canine podcast, where we speak to authentic and inspiring voices from the working canine world. Listen to this episode, subscribe to the podcast, follow us on social media, and go to origincanine.com. Enjoy the show.
G'day guys, welcome to another episode of the Origin Canine podcast. So in light of a recent question that I put on the socials, I said, hey, you guys want me to get outside the specifically canine scope? You guys said yes. So, mate, got Paul Warren here, former Army Infantry guy, now works in defence industry. Bro, you a pro fighter or amateur fighter?
Started amateur and then I fought pro as well. So, yeah.
There you go. So just all around fucking hard cunt. You've got Paul Warren. How you going, brother? Welcome. Thanks for coming on too, man. I massively appreciate it, bro.
No, thanks for having me, mate. I love seeing any veteran successful and what you're doing in your world is great. I just love doing podcasts. Hopefully this grows for you, mate, and you'll be the next Matty Morris.
Mate, my plan is to utterly destroy Matty Morris and run him out of the podcast. That's how big I want to get. Yeah, it's funny, mate. It still feels weird to me when people refer to me like as a veteran or something, like on LinkedIn or something. Oh, good to see a veteran doing well, and I'm like, oh, is that me? Am I the veteran? I don't know why it feels weird. It just does.
It's interesting, right? I think we overplay that at times, and like at work, I've sort of built a veteran program for people where they can have some options, career options moving on from defence. But I don't look at it that way either. Like I'm kind of get a little bit insulted by that, to be fair. Like the Army was 7 years of my life, but not everything. Like it didn't create me because I was 27 when I joined. Like I wasn't the 18, 19-year-old kid. So I think we all need to take that into consideration. Just be like, well, I'm a person. I'm a family man. I'm this. Like I'm bigger than that. We just put ourselves in this box at times, and as we know, the space can be, if you let it, can be quite toxic, and that obviously affects all of our mental health and stuff. I think we need to grow outside that box a little bit.
Yeah, man. Yeah. And it's like, saying that, it's that whole identity piece. Like I post a lot of, random old photos of me in the military, and 90% of it's just me just fucking mincing around, going for a walk in my uniform or something, like it's not super relevant. But even that sort of stuff, I've been like, oh man, is that even worth doing anymore? Or am I just so far past that I shouldn't even fucking bother, sort of thing? So yeah, it's worth pondering, bro, because like you said, the military didn't create you, man. Same as me. I've always been this fucking ADHD, fucking spastic, intense cunt, even before the Army. And I'm still the same now, you know what I mean? So it's like I joined the Army because that's the way I was. The Army didn't turn me into that. So I think that's a really good way to frame it.
Yeah, it's just a system you're in for a time and a place, and we all needed to adapt to that system. And then, but you look at Paul DeGelder and the stuff he's doing in the US at the moment. He still leverages off that improvise, adapt, and overcome. Like, why can't we do that when we leave? For some reason, a lot of the veteran space just throws their hands up and be like, I should be entitled to this and that. Well, it's just another day. Improvise it. Yeah, improvise and overcome it. Like we've been trained to adapt to different situations. Like the civvy world's no different. I think we overplay it sometimes, to be fair.
Yeah, no, I agree, mate. And I think that's why when people refer to me as a veteran, I don't say cringe, but I'm sort of a little bit like, oh, really? I almost like forget it, if that makes sense, because I've done stuff outside the military, and I don't think I have that mindset where I'm like, I'm a veteran. I need fucking DVA money. I need X, Y, Z, and yeah. Even though I do use the system like that. It's for
for sure. So one of my best mates is Phil Thompson, who's kicking massive goals. He could be Prime Minister one day. Like, in politics needs people like him. We deployed together. We were sort of injured together and went through rehab together. And we kind of both decided that, we're going to forge our own path, and anything DVA gave us was going to be a bonus. So if you're not reliant on the system and it doesn't aggravate you so much, you've got other things to get after. So and no one does it better than him, mate. Like I swear to God, he'll be Prime Minister one day. Like Dutton's just given him 3 extra portfolios on the shadow side. He's what politics needs at the moment.
Yeah, mate. I met him. I only met him briefly when I was in Townsville when I first started this company, and he didn't strike me. You know, obviously he didn't strike me as that slimy politician sort of thing where he was like just come in there for the fucking handshakes and kiss babies. He literally just came in to talk shit and have a chat and just hang out with the lads. Like, and it felt pretty normal and natural. So I was like, okay, I respect that.
Yeah, mate. Not much about him staged. Like you look at cyclones and floods and that. Even in the last couple of months, he's out filling sandbags and stuff. Like I'll give him some stick about how his back and his soft hands are these days. But you don't see many politicians out in the rain doing that. Like he's really, I guess, ingrained himself in the community, and that's why they love him and they'll keep voting for him.
Yeah, man. So when you say you were injured together, was he on your trip or was he in a different unit? Or you just like in the hospital together?
No, he was on MRTF too, 2009. So he was part of an omelette team. So he was a skinny little 20, 21-year-old kid, I think.
Yeah.
21st over there. And probably one of the only politicians that's shot a dude in the face. So, yeah.
I saw that interview. That was sick. Yeah. Like I saw the shortened version. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was funny. Because he was a Fiesta, wasn't he?
Sorry?
He was a Sierra, like a sniper.
Yeah. He had an SR 25, I think. Or he was using a long arm, but I think he was recon trained. I don't think he was sniper trained.
Oh, okay. Yeah, like a marksman sort of thing. Yeah,
But
sweet.
typical him somehow talked himself into getting one of the long arms.
Yeah. Oh, mate, for good pickies, mate. Hey, bro, I want to rip into you, man. I want to get into your childhood, bro. I want to know about you growing up, how that, because obviously, like you said, you joined the army quite late at 27. Yeah, mate, hit me with that too. Childhood and I guess your early 20s.
Yeah, mate, I had like a real interesting childhood, I guess. Looking back, there's some stuff you don't realise it's shaping you at the time, but it definitely is. I think it shapes all of us and who we are now. So, yeah, growing up, I was born in New South Wales, down Wollongong. My mum, she passed away before I was a year old, so I never really knew her.
Wow.
Which I think, as a lot of us military people, you have people around you that, are going to die and stuff like that. And I think, I don't know, just there's some things that add up later on and you kind of get used to this, people just dropping away around you a little bit, I guess, for want of better words. But, my dad remarried, and moved up to Queensland, up near Toowoomba, a little town called Crow's Nest. So tiny little town of about 1,000, 2,000 people outside of Toowoomba. Stepmom's a great lady, still really close to her now. And she probably shaped a lot of who I am. My dad was a footy player, real good sort of, captain coached a lot of teams down in the South Coast, New South Wales and that. So everything's sport oriented for us. I wasn't great at footy. So growing up, kids are different now. There's no iPads, no Netflix, we're either out on our bikes or playing sport, like which shapes you. Like it's resilience building. You're never going to win every game of sport you play. And I think kids now need to learn how to lose so they can get better. Like I see that in the gym now as well. I think that's something we've lost, and we just congratulate everyone for participating. But yeah, you can participate in a job interview, but it doesn't mean you're going to win it at the end of the day. So I think we've lost that edge a little bit on building resilience and being a little bit competitive. But yeah, the big thing for me as a kid, my parents got me into martial arts when I was around 9 or 10. So, and I'm still, talking to you earlier, just off air, I guess. Like, yeah, I'm still tied into that now. So it's been a big part of my life.
Yeah. So if your mum passed away so early and your dad's obviously then remarried, what was the gap there?
I think it was like a couple of years. So, yeah, I haven't really dug into it that much, which a lot of people find different, but I had a stepmom that looked after me, so I'd never really felt the need to go. I never knew my mum, so I never really felt the need to go digging. Like, yeah, a lot of people find
Yeah.
that a bit strange, but I'm like, I'd already adapted to who my stepmom was and stuff like that, and was living a pretty good life, so I never felt this need to go digging.
Yeah, no, and mate, the reason I ask is because if you're so young and then you end up like your dad remarried and you've got a stepmom, I wondered if there was, apart from the fact that your dad said, "Hey, your mum passed away when you were young," and you would have been like at least, I reckon, maybe five before you could even comprehend that. The transition, so to speak, would have been so seamless.
Yeah,
I mean, you wouldn't
yeah,
have known, right?
yeah. That's it. Yeah, no, that's played a part. So I'm just like, I'm thankful for I call her mum. She's looked after me, and yeah, really thankful because I think martial arts and her getting me into that, and being a parent now, it's time consuming you to drive your kids to training and to competitions, and she was doing that stuff for us for years. So, um, and that's not just about winning medals, as we just talked about. It's building resilience. It's learning to lose, learning to pick yourself up when you lose, learning why you lost. How do you fix things that contributed to why you lost? Like, I think I've always been that analytical sort of person with my own performance from that. Like, yeah.
Mate, are you a Jordan Peterson fan? Saint Jordan Peterson?
Yeah, yeah. I'm so upset, mate. Tomo got, I think, a couple of hours with him when he was here in Australia. So,
Ah, mate, I'm deaf. I'll get. You've actually just reminded me. I'm definitely getting Tomo on here. Actually, he'll be part of that sort of new wave of guests that I want to get on. But yeah, the what you were just saying then. Jordan Peterson has like a version of that. He was like, sometimes the outcome's not to win. Like you said, kids playing sport. It's like, can I play by the rules? Can I use the rules to win, to lose? How do I manipulate this system, so to speak? And it's more about, do other people want to play this game with me going in the future? Am I an acceptable partner in the game? So yeah, I think there's a lot of parallels between what you just said and what that Jordan Peterson quote is. And I've obviously just fucking butchered it.
oh, mate, there's a perfect example of that at the moment. I'll go in and coach tonight with our guys and girls. We've got some really weapon girl fighters at the moment. And you look at the Tim Zoo fight on the weekend. Yes, he was undefeated. Yes, he had a loss. He took on an awkward opponent in a month, which is just crazy. But when you look back at 10 years, after he's retired, are people going to see that he lost? Like, no. He sort of, the amount of resilience and stuff he showed in that fight to get cut and still go 10, 12, like that many rounds is just insane. He's not going to be defined by the loss. He's going to grow from that experience. And yeah.
Yeah, and like, for the context of the audience and probably me too, was this that fight over the weekend where they were like that he got a big cut over his eye and there was blood everywhere and they were like they should have stopped the fight but they kept going a bit longer than what they were supposed to? Is that the same one?
Yeah, essentially. Yeah. So he probably fought, the best part of 10 rounds with very not much visibility. It's pretty bad cuts. He was getting a lot in his eyes and stuff like that. And not only that, but he just had the intestinal fortitude to have an opponent change a couple of weeks before, and she just went, yeah, I'll fight him too. Like, yeah, you don't often see that mindset. Even at that elite level of fighting, there's people that are a little bit protective of their records and stuff like that. But I said to my team, like, combat sports will put hurdles in front of you. You either grow and go over them, or you go around them and you don't get the growth. It's up to you.
Yeah, yeah, I like that, man. Fuck. Mate, we're getting way too deep, way too early.
Too deep.
No, it's good shit. I like it. I like it. Yeah, so if you were doing a heap of martial arts when you were super young, were your parents into martial arts, or they were just like collectively were like, let's get fucking Paul into some good shit?
Probably saw me being really ordinary at footy and just went, oh, we need to get this kid into something else. So he's not embarrassing us every weekend, but did
Yeah, play
mention
some chess or something, like do this puzzle.
yeah, I think my dad sort of started. He just wanted something different, and then all of us kids got into it. So yeah, it's like my brother and stuff like that. And then he ended up jumping across to Muay Thai when I did later on. But it's the 90s, mate, like the Van Damme era. Like everyone wanted to, those traditional martial arts and karate skills, and were, Karate Kid and Van Damme it's kind of cool. It was something new and something different, and all the kids wanted to do it. But I loved it, mate. The difference between that and most sports is there's no off season. You've got to manage your weight. You're not just playing a game a week and probably, drinking as much as you're training if it's amateur footy or something like that. I think it's a real lifestyle thing. There's always going to be a bigger, badder dog to put you in your place, really. So you kind of come to that realization early.
Yeah, it's good, man. There's some important lessons to learn, bro. And if I'm honest, mate, I think I missed out on some of that stuff when I was a kid. I don't think my parents pushed me enough in a certain direction, because I was always a scared kid. I was like, nah, it's too big and scary. I don't want to do that. And I reckon that shaped a lot of my mindset later on when it came to some of the bad shit that I've been through. So I've always found that perspective interesting, mate. Hey.
Yeah, it's a big part of things. And once again, I don't want to keep saying his name, but we're at a meeting in Townsville, and it was when Phil Thompson was there, and he goes, well, take your situation of what happened in Afghan. He goes, if you were an 18, 19-year-old kid and this happened to you, and you didn't have this background of, fighting and martial arts and who you are, which shapes you, like, are you where you are now? And the answer is probably no. Like, yeah. So I'm really thankful for that part of my life, mate.
Yeah. And were you fighting in like various martial arts all through your teens and your 20s?
It literally consumed me from about 10, 11 years old. Once I started competing in, those tournament formats, which weren't really the full contact stuff. They were pretty, there's a lot of safety restrictions around kids then. But yeah, I grew up doing that, and I grew up having, the challenges never end when you sort of get into a thing like that. And you don't want to be known for the easy fights and stuff anyway. You want to be known as the person that like can overcome those hurdles like we talked about earlier. So by the time I was 12, I hit this a bit of a growth spurt and was up near 6 foot tall. Like I got tall really young. And some of these karate tournaments, for some reason, they'd go on height. So I was fighting 15, 16-year-olds when I was 12. So I got my fair share of lessons there as well. But it's just that, all right, getting that in, I guess, mindset where you're like, all right, I can do this and I can overcome this. And I literally paid attention to that way more than school. And by 16, 17, should have been focused on year 12, but I went to Denmark for world titles to fight in the under 17 thing over there. So, and got fourth in the world. That was 1996. Showing my age now.
96, but I was literally in primary school, bro. Fucking so fourth in the world. In what discipline? Was that karate?
Yeah. So Kashiki it was called, which it was really good. You could sort of hit a bit harder than the point system, and they'd let fights flow a little bit more, but it was still safe. So you'd have like a bodyguard thing on, and literally a helmet with a sort of shield over your face. But yeah, it was cool. Like, yeah, good experience. And mate, coming from a town where I grew up, like the international airport was something to see when I'm like coming from Crow's Nest or Toowoomba, let alone I'm going to send you to Denmark with this team of like loose guys that, had my first drink and ended up intoxicated for the first time on an international flight, which wasn't cool, but
pressurized aircraft.
Yeah.
Well, how old were you?
I was 16. So
16. Okay, yeah, gotcha.
I mean, 18. Sorry, they shouldn't have.
Yeah, police. Fuck. So that was 96, and you were 16. So then, like late 90s, early 2000s, you would have been like in your you're sort of starting to go in your adult years. What around about like September 11 kind of thing? What was going on in your life?
It was interesting, mate. That was kind of a crossroads for me, right? Like, And I still really, I remember that pretty vividly. I think a lot of us do that sort of engaged in military stuff after that. Um, really, so I left school. So that was 96 was my year 12 for me. And I push on to my young kids now that come in. I'm like, you need to balance this with school. Like, my parents told me I'd be working all the crappy jobs, and that's where I ended up. But karate was good, but I used to run to the newsagent and sort of read this magazine. It was International Kickboxer. I always wanted to fight like kickboxing and Muay Thai. That was the goal for me. So didn't go to uni, didn't do any of that stuff. Just worked pretty average jobs, abattoir stuff and whatever. Just wanted to train and fight. The biggest lesson I probably got is, so I got back from Denmark, got fourth, thought I was killing it. Ego was like high. I trained for 4 weeks at a Muay Thai place in Toowoomba and went, I'll have a fight. Got absolutely destroyed, mate. Absolutely bashed by a guy that was nearly 30. So just realised it's a different kettle of fish, different animal. A couple of black eyes, and my parents trying to talk me out of continuing with this sport and do something else. But that became, I guess, life for the next 10 years, really. Fortunate enough, a 10-year career in that. So, it took me through to 2006, really. Went to Thailand and sort of, did all that stuff, which back then not a lot of Westerners were really doing, like not as popular as it is now. So, that's one of those crossroads where, is this too hard? Do I give up? Or I just really wanted to do it and be good at it. And even though I lost, kind of loved it, which shows what sort of masochist I am at times. I guess went on to have 31 fights, 2 Queensland titles, 2 Australian titles, and 3 out of those 4 by knockout too, which is cool. So no judges' decisions. In 2006, I fractured my right shin. I was just starting to get to that level where hopefully I was going to get some international fights, like either a New Zealand, South Pacific sort of title or something like that. But had that realization. I'd had 10 years in the sport. I probably missed that window to be, I wasn't going to be a world champion or anything like that back then. So started looking at other options of what to do. And as you know yourself, there's a lot of discipline and structure and symmetry between martial arts and the military. So, but seeing 9/11 and watching a lot of, all of a sudden Discovery Channel was just blasting, Marine stuff and Fallujah.
Like a Navy SEAL and
and I didn't sort of get all gun ho and wanted to be a cowboy, but I kind of saw the symmetry between the two, really. And I wanted to get out of Toowoomba. I just wanted to. So I enlisted in 2007.
2007. And because you were injured in wounded 2009, correct?
Yeah, that's right, mate. Yeah.
And how long, well, obviously we're going to go through this, but how long did you stay in the military post being wounded?
4 years. Yeah, which is too long looking back now. Knowing what I know now, it was too long. Sort of hopeful that the army system's a bit more accommodating. And to be fair, mate, another person you should get on here is Coco Quirk. McQuilty. He's one of my good mates. He did nearly 20 years as a combat medic. He got blown up at the same time. Same thing, mate. They just didn't really have options for us that were seriously wounded to keep us. But you've lost a combat medic that's done every trip under the sun. He should have been put into an instructor role if he wanted to stay, because now what have you got? No one with combat experience, or very few.
Yeah, I think it's such a cyclical thing with the military, right? Like post-Vietnam, they treated them all like shit. I don't know what would have happened internally, but like guys now, Afghan era, like look what happened to SASR. They literally get run out of the units. They're just like, fuck off. We don't want you. Get rid of you. I imagine they would have done the same thing back in Vietnam, maybe post World War II, Korea. I'm sure it happens all the fucking time, eh?
Yeah, 100%, mate. I think it's really sad, and we're gonna. By the time we realise as a country that we're going to need those big dogs that can bark like that, it's too. Like I said, we've run them all off. Like, yeah, I'm concerned for what our future holds because of that sort of stuff. I think a little bit different when you're wounded. They just kind of they'd hold on to us, but there wasn't any real possibilities. Like, I mean, I got back to running when I was told I couldn't. I flipped one of the big truck tires right around the whole gym at 1AR in front of like hierarchy and stuff, trying to do sub one. Because the worst thing in my life now that I can do is stand still. Like, that drives me nuts. If I'm developing, if I'm learning, if I'm evolving as a coach or at work or doing development, I'm happy. But the army just kind of held on to me at that time, wouldn't let me do sub one, wouldn't let me progress. I'm like, let me go then.
Yeah. Well, were they running you around like a fucking PR stunt, or were they just leaving you alone doing your thing?
A little bit of both early on, yeah. So my doctor at the moment, now that I've moved from Townsville down to Brizzy, is Kieran McCarthy.
Yeah,
Love him, mate. Such a good dude. I walked in there. So he was an army medic when I first got back from Afghan. I walked into his GP rooms, and he goes, "Pretty sure you told me to fuck off and get out of your room last time I saw you."
yeah.
It was, mate. When I first got back, I was all, full of pain meds and morphine and all these, the hierarchy were just coming in. Yeah, I felt like a bit of a sideshow thing. I'm like, I don't know any of these people. Just, yeah, leave me alone. So, yeah,
Yeah,
the
man.
army has a tendency to do that sort of stuff, as you know.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, I've got my own experience with that, nowhere near the same kind of thing, but similar sentiment that I had. I'm just like, and I went back and forth between like, oh, why don't you guys help me, to like, just leave me alone, let me do what I want to do. And then like, why aren't you helping me? And then I went back and forth like that a bit, which I think maybe some of the immediate people around me sort of pushed him away a little bit.
But
But
that's easy too, right? That's just, you just need someone to manage that case or situation and go, what, and map out a plan for 12 months. And then you're not getting stuck and going, someone help me. We're like, follow this plan. The army plans everything, mate. They could tell you if you had an extra water bottle from Singo 10 years ago and the Q store would ring you and ask for it back. But they can't tell you who was at a critical incident overseas or who. Yeah, it's crazy. Some of it, it's, yeah. I
yeah,
work in the defence industry. I've probably got to be a little bit careful of what I say, but
yeah,
I'm glad the leadership's getting torn apart now because it's so self-serving. It's not even funny.
yeah, man. I'm sure, and like industry wise, you've got some. I mean, I'm in the industry too, but I don't have any of those insights. I'm sure you've got plenty of insights, which we won't share on here, so we
Yeah,
can
no.
protect your professional integrity in your career. But yeah. Well, mate, let's wind back a bit, bro. I want to so 2007. What month did you join?
August, so late August, 27th of August, 2007, pretty sure. So, yeah, had that realization. My fight career wasn't going to go where it was. Had a big fracture down my right shin from the last fight that I had. Kicked the guy's knee when he went to sort of check a leg kick, and then just sat around, felt a bit sorry for myself, just for that little period, just trying to figure out what that next move was, and then I pushed back on the recruiters, mate. They were, for some reason, seeing that in my background, they wanted me to push. They were trying to push me down that direct entry SF pathway.
Yeah,
But I knew from martial arts, I didn't want to. You can't skip steps. I didn't know enough at 27. I didn't know enough about navigation, soldiering, all this stuff to think that I could walk straight into SF. I'm like, no, I'll do it this way. And then if that opens up for me later on, I'll go that path. But I push back against that pretty quick.
but mate, that's surprisingly mature, mate. Because I did, and again, I'm going to reference myself a lot in this conversation because it's the topic
Yeah.
I know most about. I did the opposite. I was just like, nah, I want to go straight to the cool shit. I don't want to do any of that other fucking stupid shit. I want to do the cool stuff.
I respect that too, mate. Yeah. Yeah. Like if I was a bit younger, I probably would have. Yeah, I don't know. I just,
Yeah.
I think I'll do it this way. And yeah, everyone's mindset's going to be different around that when they join and have different aspirations. But yeah.
Well, that was the difference between an 18-year-old and a 27-year-old. Like that's what 9 years difference is massive, bro. Massive,
Yeah.
massive.
I had to take into account, mate. I'd been fighting since I was 10 or 11 too. Like my body at that time probably wasn't ready just to jump into something flat out again. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, just fractured my shin. Just, yeah. I probably wasn't ready to jump into that so physically demanding space that quick, I think.
Yeah. And then, so with that in mind, that you obviously then you've gone and done Kapuka and Singo. Was it almost the opposite end of the spectrum? You were like, well, at least Kapuka, you were like, oh, this is pretty past.
Yeah, it is. It is, mate. Yeah. I guess first day, like we mentioned earlier, I met when you do your sign up before they fly you down to New South Wales to head to Kapuka, and that's where I met Ryan. So Ryan Gatley, so we joined on the same day, and we've got our gym together now. So we've been mates for 17, best part of 20 years. So that's one unique thing to the military. You can have mates that are like family, and I don't think there's any other organisation or dynamic in the world that does that. You cannot see a mate for 10 years and get on like you saw him yesterday, like it's, and I think it's adversity that creates that bond a little bit when they put you through some of the fun and games that the military does, like trying to build your sense of urgency and your attention to detail and little things like that. But yeah, like we spoke about earlier, like the little games, you're not affected by that as a 27-year-old. You're really not. Like, when even walking up and down the hallways, and I was older than some of these dudes, mate.
Yeah.
They're yelling and screaming in my mind, and this is not a macho thing either, but in my mind, I'm like, words can be used to intimidate people and the way you look at me and stuff like that. But I'd spend 10 years fighting strangers for money, right? Like there was no. This is pre-social media, By the time you found out you had a tall opponent, you're weighing on the scales beside them. Like you couldn't do this homework. It did build resilience, and like, yeah, it was a real interesting time actually. And they gave me plenty of stick because that was my fight name. So I had that
Well, yeah.
in my forearm because it used to be one of my favourite things to sort of push in with that elbow. So people, I copped so much stick at Kapuka, mate. Stacco's like, you want to fight me, tough guy? I'm like, if the money's right, why not?
Did you say that? You were just like, oh, I don't know, Corporal.
No, he's like, yeah, no, that's not right. Wrong answer. And yeah, but you can, it is interesting, like you said, the dynamic between the mentality of a 17, 18, like a lot of these guys are just kids straight out of school and live pretty good lives straight into that Kapuka environment. I can see that being total chaos, but being 27, having been to Thailand, having some life experience, you can contextualize things a little bit different and just play the game.
Yeah. What sort of shit were they getting you guys to do? Like, put this room into that room sort of shit, or?
Oh yeah, just run it up and downstairs, get up and downstairs, come back with this in one hand and this in the other hand, and then your room's all messed up and they're doing it late at night and stuff like that. But nothing too hectic. My thing was the guy I've got a lot of respect for. He was in the platoon downstairs, Jed Wheeler. So he was a second three. Yeah, he could fight too. And I think we kind of knew who each other was. And like he would give me that much shit. He'd leave his platoon to come up to ours and do like hat inspections where you've got to hold them out for ages, or tail inspections and stuff. He'd give me heaps of stick. Like, yeah, I love that bloke. It was kind of funny.
Yeah, mate. I've never met Jed. I only know him through association, but we chatted a few times on the phone, like years and years ago. He was doing something with the War Memorial, and I was just like, I had a couple of stories I was telling him, and he was like relaying them. And mate, yeah, it seemed like a great dude, man. And he always had a good rep in 3RR from the people that I spoke to. So, mate, big shout out to Jed.
Yeah, 100%, mate. Pretty hard dude. And like once again, combat sports and military, like it's it's a pretty formidable combination when you're putting together like a soldier, really. Like you've had all this resilience built through your hobby or stuff you like to do. Yeah.
Yeah. Mate, do you and I want to get onto Singo, there's so many little tangents I want to go on because you've just got this good cross section of topics we can get into. Um, I recently just watched the episode with Tim Kennedy on the Sean Ryan show. I'm a massive Tim Kennedy fanboy. And it was interesting to hear about his fight stuff when he was in the Green Berets and whatnot. Have you ever reached out to him or had anything to do with those kind of guys, for example?
Not really, mate. There's a lot of guys I'm sort of know and mates with here that got to have UFC contracts, but not at that level. And I think the big thing we were lacking, it's different now. Paul Cale's taken over, the kinetic fighting stuff, and you've got someone knowledgeable running that. And I think the Americans had that for a long time, and there's real symmetry between their martial arts, their BJJ. They're all wrestlers anyway when they come out of school because it's so big in their school systems over there, to wrestle their athletes, which once again builds resilience because they're cutting weight. The worst thing about fighting is cutting weight. When you're starving yourself and you can't even have fluid for the last day or two, they've built all this resilience. And then I think their military systems and their unarmed combat were a little bit on the same page than we were. The MSD stuff we did, Singo, mate, was just garbage. And I'm sure the staff I'd come up and ask all these questions and they're like, just fuck off, mate.
Yeah.
This is only going to create this. And because the whole MSD thing there was just yep, you need to shell up and put your hands like this on your head. And I'm like, all that says is hit me. And you want me to create space, so you can come and attack me again? I wouldn't put my fingers up there like that, because if I saw a bloke do that, I'd break his fingers with my elbow, for a start. And that's a very defensive position. I'm glad Paul Cale sort of got it and grabbed hold of it and sort of brought it into the real world a little bit, and probably different at SF units. But can honestly say, mate, the stuff they were teaching back then through Singo, 2007, it was garbage.
Yeah. You ever had anything to do with Tony Blauer and that spear system and stuff?
No, I haven't, mate. To be honest, I've sort of had a little bit of look at it from afar, but no, not too much involved.
Yeah. As a concept, it's interesting. And I think people have taken his system and sort of done their own things with it. But I had a chat to Tony on the podcast a couple of years ago. And it's not obviously not the same as the MSD thing where you're did the shell or whatever, but it's based on that flinch fear response, and it's about it's big macro movements. The stuff he does is really interesting, and I think that's where it started to go after that whole trying to teach people martial arts and the shell sort of thing.
Yeah. Even creating space, what I do with a lot of our fighters now, and anyone that knows, Muay Thai, so you've got different ranges. You've got that long kick range, punch range, and then in close with knee and elbow. I'd rather than create space, which is what the premise of MSD was. To me, that sounded crazy. I can't control you if you're 2 or 3 meters away. You could be picking something else up. You could be getting another person, and next minute I'm in more shit than I started with. But if I can close that range and then control it, and then I'm here and can control you, I think that's so much more of a safer option.
Yeah. I was never really into that sort of space, especially in the unit. I did what I had to, but I was never one of the martial arts guys, if it makes sense. So it's always been interesting to me, but I've just never committed myself to learning it and doing it properly. Yeah. So mate, take us through Singo, bro. What's Singo like to you, to a 27-year-old bloke doing infantry training?
It was interesting, hey. You go back to the age dynamic again, and you got all these people just hearing rumors about how hard Singo is going to be, and people literally having open conversations. Do you think I'll make it? Do you think I'll get through there? Well, the more you think like that, you're probably not doing yourself any favors. But it was tough, and Ryan and I were talking about it now with modern athletes, and how many people of these modern athletes do you think would get through a proper Singo course back then, where you had big stomps, you had sleep deprivation, most people can't, get upset when they don't have Wi-Fi for 24 hours now, let alone, pushing them through all that stuff. It is resilience building, as you know, like even at just that RAR level before you get up to SF stuff. But I liked it. Like I'd spent all my life working shitty jobs so I could train. All of a sudden I'm getting paid to test myself and train. I'm good. Like, good mate of mine, I shared a room with him at Kapuka, and he's one of the best soldiers I ever worked with. Brody Keating. Yeah, he was just this 18, 19-year-old kid from Melbourne, I think I wrote in my book, he, wore his tight shirts like Ben Cousins and stuff like that. But mate, he was just a weapon. Everyone would be, cooked at the end of the day. You'd go into his room, he'd have his helmet and body armor on doing push-ups and stuff. Like, he's just one of those guys. He sommed recon snipers. He sommed sniper team leader as a lance corporal, and they had to promote him because you can't be a team leader as a lance jack. Like, he was just a weapon, mate. So people like that, if you surround your small network with people like that, then you don't buy into all the negativity of am I going to make it or not. You just get it done.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I totally agree, bro. Mate, Brody Keating, that name sounds familiar.
Mate, he should have went to SAS. He did selection, and I think they were kind of aware of who he was because he just, yeah. I did get in his head and talk him into square gating at Singo, though, to pick up his best recruit at Singo. I got in his head. I'm like, you should do this. And I said it again and again and again. And sure enough, when he went out to pick up his award at Singo for best soldier, he square gated.
On purpose, or he got in his head and he was just like, oh, fuck.
Yeah, just messing him a little bit. And then he's like, oh, fuck. But yeah. Don't know. He's all settled and family life changes. He's just had a baby actually with his partner, with his wife Kelly. So congratulations to them. But he did a triathlon the week before selection.
Nice. That's good. It's good recovery.
So I'm like, you've either self-sabotaged this because you haven't backed yourself, or this is not what you really want to do because he's smarter than that. So
yeah. Brady, is he on the socials? Because the name sounds familiar. Like, is he?
I think he lays pretty low on that. Yeah, I think he's active on that, mate. He's over in Perth now. They went to Dubai for a bit, sort of both of them, and then lived over there on some of that contracting stuff that he was doing over there with all the snipers. So, yeah.
I'm gonna look him up, but his name sounds real familiar, man. Don't know what it is, but Brady Keating. Yeah, okay. All right. Yeah, so mate, back to Singo, dude. So obviously Singleton School of Infantry, going to their Royal Australian Infantry Corps. At what point did you say I want to go to 1RAR?
Pretty early on, actually. They sort of asked us for preferences. For me, growing up in Toowoomba, Brisbane was a bit close to home. I'd sort of done a bit of homework. I knew 1RAR was actually deployed through 07. They did a GAN trip in 07.
RTF2 or something like that.
Yeah, I don't know if still got a few good mates that sort of did that trip, and that was unfortunately when Pierce got killed. So,
yep.
Yeah, right at the end. I think it was one of their last patrols, to be fair. Yeah, so a lot of those guys now, but I wanted to go, to one or two. I just wanted to go to Townsville, get away. Didn't really, Darwin wasn't so appealing, mate. And once again, thought about my body. I did, 3RR still had the para stuff then, not for too much longer, but did I really want to jump out of planes and break what was left of a broken body? Probably not.
Yeah, good choice. Yeah, nice. And was there any inclination at that point that 1RR was going to go do another GAN trip, or were you just sort of choosing based on geography?
Or a little bit on, and then battalion's capability too, like, because 1RR was all about rappelling and stuff like that then, like a little, well, that's what they were sort of, what it's like, they sort of change the dynamic of stuff, and I just thought, that'd be cool. It was interesting. Wanted to, get up there, and you'd heard about, Townsville's reputation for building decent soldiers as well. Like, so Johnny Craig was our platoon sergeant. He's still in, actually. Probably RSMA one day, but yeah, he was from Tuarau, so he you listened to him speak, and he sort of spoke pretty highly of Townsville, so that's where I wanted to go. I'll be totally honest, I nearly didn't get there at all. So I ended up in military court from Singo.
Okay.
This is during a work day. And once again, like a little bit of maturity probably showed. I wasn't going out drinking on the weekends. I'm like, no, I want to get out of Singo. But I ended up stuck there for over a year. During a work day, I think we were getting ready for an X, and this we had to move some boxes or something. There's just one bloke that's sort of standing around, and I'm like, get out of my way, like get out of the, either help us or get out of the way, sort of thing. Like nothing more than that. I was carrying, like, literally holding a ration box. I had both my arms tied up. My mate swung a punch at me.
Oh.
And like I didn't even think. I put the box down, pushed him up against the wall, smacked him once, and he started to slide, hit him again, fucking done.
Yeah.
And got absolutely smashed for it. Yeah.
So you put the elbows on him. He wasn't even a jab. You just like, that's elbow.
Yeah, I just thought it was just such a, well, you don't hurt your hands with elbows either. But it was more probably instinctive than, I didn't have time to think about it. Like I was fuming, because who's going to swing a punch at you when you're carrying a box and you don't even have a hand free to defend yourself? It's a bit of a dog shot, but that thing got blown out bigger than Ben-Hur, mate. So I didn't leave with the rest of the platoon. I got stuck at Singo, got kept on. Like, they didn't give me, as your money goes up when you march out. Didn't get that, because they're like, this is unsoldierly qualities. I'm like, you either want fighting people or not. What do you want overseas? MPs picked me up, and then they had like an international kickboxer magazine there that had the ratings, and they're like, is this you? I'm like, yeah, but what's that? Literally, yeah. Went down to, where was it? Yeah, Ramdick Barracks, like a proper troll, mate. They were going to kick me out of the military for that.
Shit. Really? Yeah. And correct me if I'm wrong, because we've got obviously a mutual mate in Luke Climo, so good day, Climo.
Yeah.
Excuse me. You guys met at Singo, so were you then posted? So after your trial and whatnot was over, were you then posted to the school for a little?
Beforehand, mate. So I don't think they really even knew what to do with me. Climo was up at TSP with a couple other guys, good guys up there, and it was actually really beneficial going there, because a lot of those blokes had already been deployed. They'd done the IRAC trips. I probably learnt more off them than guys going to a unit and sitting around the cages for 6 months, like, because we're like TSP, you're doing nighttime patrols, you're doing all this stuff playing enemy, and it was just a chance to learn off them. But I stayed there for almost 12 months while they figured out, this thing got bigger than Ben-Hur, mate. It's massive. I still can't sort of figure it out now. Like, surely there's no alcohol involved. Everything at Singo is about aggression and doing all this stuff. Like, old mate threw a punch and he just picked a fight he wasn't going to win. So that's the way I saw it. But then trying to get kicked out of the military for it was like, that's what this Navy prosecutor wanted. They were paying my Choco legal guy, who was a barrister at Martin Place in Sydney. So imagine how much money he's on. They were paying him. It was in front of a brigadier. Like, it was a proper court proceeding. And in the end, out of all this, when it all came out, they fined me $1,000, but they paid me $1,600 in incidentals.
Classic.
Typical. So army, hey?
Yeah.
I'm lucky. And Climo will attest to this as well. he was a real young subby at the time, Chris Johnson. I'm still good mates with him today. He sort of evaluated me not on what they were trying to hit me with, but my performance at TSP and that. And he stood up in this court thing and said, you know, I'm going to 8-9 as an OC. This is a guy I want to take on operations with me. Like, so, and he was CL3 RAR not too long ago. So,
Okay.
yeah, I'm thankful for people like that just sort of take you on your face value rather than TSPs where all the admin nightmares go. Really, I didn't want to be one of them.
Yeah, 100%. You'll either flourish because you want to get out of the shit, or you'll just become part of the shit.
Yeah, so my Singo experience, mate, I didn't get out of there till the back end of 08.
Shit. Okay. And that was just straight to one RAR, straight on the trip, was it?
Yeah, essentially straight to one RAR. I got there and it's like literally December. So I had my car at TSP and stuff by that stage because I'd been down there that long. It got a bit confusing because Jono wanted me to go to 8-9 where he was going to go, and he was trying to change that posting order. And then Scheme just went, no, you're going to 1. See you later. But it was December. So I got there, everyone was on stand down. Didn't even, and a lot of the civvies that work on base trying to get a room and stuff sorted, it was a nightmare. So I'm lucky, Brody left his keys out for me when he heard I was coming up, so I just used his room for a bit.
Yeah, nice.
December 2008. So I just stuck knew the battalion was deploying, even though when we got back, when works ramped up a bit, the RSM said, we've already picked our A team, sort of gave us that condescending speech. They're all strutting around in desert cams and stuff, which didn't make sense when we got over there anyway, because they're operating in the green zone.
Yeah.
Look like a white ball on a pool table wearing desert cams. Don't stand out much. So I just focused over that month on the big thing driving me was like, all right, I've just been through all this crap. I'm nearly 30 years old. I'm not going to follow. I want to lead. So I just concentrated on my fitness. And by the time work sort of got back and everyone got back at the end of January, I'd been running just every day and sort of keeping myself pretty fit. So, yeah. Always had this bit of just a feeling like, no, you're not getting deployed. We've got our team and stuff like that. Walshy. And this is where this backs onto the SASR conversation as well, about, running dudes off that we're going to need later on. He was my first section commander, and he ended up over there as well. So he was one of the harder old school guys. He did that selection that was filmed, that Search for Warriors one. He was on that.
Oh, yeah. That was like 2011 or 2010 or something like that.
Yeah, I've got a few good mates that were on that one, actually. Yeah, and sort of had careers over there. So, fortunate enough to have him as my first echo. He'd ride you hard for a week, and then once he knew he could trust you and you'd put the work in, he left me alone. So, worked with him. Sorry, my battery thing's just coming up, I think. Yeah, it's back where I was. So Walshy, love him to bits, and he's one of the guys that just, this kind of was part of me losing faith, talking to him. He's just like, the unit doesn't want people like me anymore, and that kind of, put it in context, because it's not whether you want them, we're going to need the guys like that down the track, I think, when China comes knocking with a sledgehammer. Yeah.
Is Walshy still in?
What's
do
that?
I need to blank his name out? Is he still in, or is he all right?
He's out now. Yeah. I'm not sure how that protocol works. He's out now though, so shouldn't be.
Walshy may as well be fucking Jono.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, sweet. All right.
He took over the Dog Cup.
What's that?
So he took over running Dog Cup. So obviously Duke of Gloucester Cup with all the different battalions sort of compete for. And I'm like, this is cool. This will keep me fit and motivated and, keep on top of skills and stuff like that. So, it was in that system with him, and then got called into a CSM's office with about 4 weeks' notice, and they're like, "Yeah, you guys are deploying now too." So
Nice.
yeah, I got a week leave before we deployed, and then we were off. It was so unorganised. We didn't know what we thought. As a group, we'd been training together for Dog Cup. They'd keep us together as a group overseas, right? That for continuity, that'd make sense. No, taking the snipers out of Alpha Company, and then you guys are just going to fill in here. We landed in Kuwait, and we're like, I've got no idea who our platoon is, who this. Like, it was a fucking mess, mate.
Shit. All right. And mate, at what point? So obviously Benny Ranaudo, he's going to become big in this story in a minute. But at what point were you and Benny Ranaudo sort of? Did you start to get close, get to know each other, and end up in the same place? I guess.
I think I met him in Kuwait, and they still weren't even sure. Like, me and Jusek, this other bloke, he's a bit of a jet in the battalion. I think they put him on he got there just after IETs, and they put him on a sniper course like real quick. He's like, I'm just out of IETs. He fucking passed it, mate. Like,
Good on him.
yeah, just this jet young kid, and he'll come into prevalence a bit later on when the story gets a bit more chaotic. But yeah, we sort of saw all those guys. They didn't know we were going to join them. We didn't know. Like, it's so messy, mate. Like, so really, probably not till Afghan. So that was in Kuwait before they were going through Dubai. We were going over to Afghan through Kuwait. Literally, we watch movies. Juice and I watch movies for 3 days in these weird huts, and we had no idea where we were going, who we were going with. Yeah, until we got to 1-2 Alpha was our section. So that's obviously Benny's section. Pretty lucky. Sam Fole was the 2IC. He'd done selection a couple of times and got to the end, just wasn't taken because of people more experienced than him at the time. So he'd sort of had a pretty strong reputation for being a good operator. And it just, once we got with those guys, we were good. We just he'd ride you pretty hard again. Like, it's just the military way until they can trust you and know you're all over stuff. And then, yeah, out on patrol probably a week later.
Shit. So you guys just like a few days in Kuwait, did a bit of tick in the box, dog shit admin stuff, and then straight in. Where were you based in Afghan?
So this section that we went to, it was a good section. It was like James Thorne, Sam Fole, like a lot of recon dudes. And so we became CO's TAC party. So we moved around a fair bit. Pete Connolly was the CO at the time, and then Andrew Hocking would later take over. A lot of respect for Hawks. He's a good guy. First time I met him, I was in hospital, but we'll go into that a bit later. So we got moved around a fair bit, which is kind of cool because you get to see a lot of the AO that way. You not just have this one little space, I guess. Moving around a bit with Pete Connolly as CO's TAC party. He wanted to get out on the ground, and yeah.
And so were you like mainly say like TK, for example, Tarracot, and then you were like going up to different valleys or flying around in choppers? What was the go?
No, just all Bushmaster stuff, mate. So once we left TK, we didn't get back there too much. He wanted to get around to all the patrol bases. War Memorial sent me a map not long ago because I think they're going to map out a lot of these incidents into a book or something, where critical ones where people were killed, unfortunately. So I can't even remember the name of the patrol bases and stuff we were out at the time, but we were temporarily out of there, and as you know, going to patrol bases, everyone's protective of their thing. So
That little
they're all
space,
eating good food, and we're stuck out sleeping next to the Bushmaster inside the patrol base, eating rations and shit.
Jack guns.
Yeah,
Mate, I remember when in 2012, because I was in Chora Valley, like a bit further north, up at Patrol Base Lock, formerly Lock, and then it was like Mirrorwise. And then we went down south because a few guys got killed, so we went down there to go and look for that Hekmatula guy, and then we were like supplementing those guys, and we rocked up to their little base, and their CSM was a fuckwit. We pulled in, and he was like this super Reggie guy, and he was like mind you, these guys had just had 3 of their dudes just got fucking iced, like literally like not even a week before. And we rocked up and he was like, yeah, guys, it's roll your sleeves down, mate. Yeah, look, we like to shave at least once a day here. Like, we got to this is the routine and blah, 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 blah. And we were like, yeah, see you can't, we're out of here. And we got back in the bushies, moved to like the adjacent hill and just sat there outside the patrol base.
We like to destroy our skin in 50-degree heat. None of it made sense, mate. None of it made sense. And like, this is where being older can get you in trouble. And I'll go back to go back to Singo real quick. We were, that you go through Soot Week and stuff, and you've got DS and that following you around, making sure you're navigating and fucking getting everything right. And our Seco got lost, mate. He was proper lost. And I got the shits because we're looking for a thing, checkpoint close to a dam, and we're heading uphill. And mate, I'd had enough, and I'm like, I got on the radio. I'm like, water hasn't fucking run uphill for years. And he's
since at least the 50s.
Why are we heading uphill looking for a fucking dam?
That's good.
Like,
Yeah.
You probably don't have the patience as an older person for some of the stupidity. Like, and same thing for us, mate. Like I think one of the RSM or something. He's like, and we just finished a patrol, so all our clothes are wet. We tried to wash them and sort of hang them up so we're good to go again, like refurbing to go again. We're all in PT gear, just sort of cleaning weapons and stuff, doing all the right things. Same thing. Put uniforms on between these hours. I'm like, hang in there, like just stupidity, mate.
Yeah, we had the old.
The point of stupidity I really take offence at is when battalions take over from another battalion, and instead of 7RA were really good to us, like doing the nursery patrol and stuff like that when they were sort of leaving, and they're like, you know what it's like. You get intel when you take over from someone else who knows the lay of the land and they've been living there for months. Don't go down here. That's IED. And then we've got some wanker officer or leader going, we're at 1RA. We're going to go down here anyway. I'm like, cool. You're chasing gongs and you're going to put all of us at risk and potentially get someone killed. That's nothing short of stupidity, mate.
Yeah, and mate, there's plenty of stories out there of exactly just like your incident, right? There's other ones that are almost identical. You shouldn't have been doing X, Y, Z. Somebody's fucking ego got in the way. Like, we're just such fallible creatures, aren't we?
Yeah, which once again reflects on why I'm glad that the hierarchy's sort of getting grilled in the Senate and stuff like that now. Like, mate, they've put us in danger for over silly things for a long time, really, and we're all capable fighters and we're all keen for a fight when it pops up, but you don't have to put people in harm's way to get that. Like,
yeah,
you do, like the way that sort of came out, but you don't have to start to get reckless where you're going to lose lives.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah, like sometimes it's like an ends. What's the word? Like the end justifies the means. They're like, we got to do this. So this process we don't really give a shit about, and they don't worry about the second, third order effects. What's this going to do about people? All that other type of shit.
Just reckless.
The mental health things that they got going on at the moment.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, mate, hit me with what was going on in Afghan at that time. So 2009. And if you were doing a fair bit of dynamic stuff, you were out fucking all over the shop. What was the tempo like, and what sort of incidents were you guys seeing like daily, weekly?
Yeah, so 2009 for us, like when you look at Afghan holistically, like it's a pretty decent sort of fighting season. There's a lot going on in 2009. I think, and you kind of feel like we were getting a little bit protected if you did your homework into it. Like, you had the Royal Marines and all these guys that I'm friends with now from Invictus Games and things like that. They were all in the Badlands of Mirabad and around that dam. Is it Kanjaki or something like that?
Oh, Kajaki Dam and like Helmand and shit, yeah.
Yeah, they were all just into it all the time. And I kind of felt like as a, the regular infantry battalions, we were getting a little bit protected of that. But, you get out on initial patrol and we're nearly at the end of it and you see like an own goal, like a Hilux, Civi Hilux hidden IED, and you kind of, oh, hang on a minute, this can happen right here as well. So that was a fair warning sign. And for us, mate, we couldn't really, and I know I didn't do the whole deployment because I got medevaced out, but we couldn't really buy a contact. It was all mainly IEDs through that. There was obviously some, and like I said, Tomo did what he had to do when there was a guy. He got a spotter on the phone calling in an IED watching a patrol. So there were those incidents, but it was mainly IEDs. I think we lost 14 Bushmasters or something like that. Like it was.
Yeah, fucked. 14.
Yeah. I think there's 14 incidents where, they got, amazing vehicle. I love them to bits, but yeah, we were getting hit with a fair bit of that. So
yeah, shit, man. Because I know that we never had Australia never had a death in the whole conflict in a Bushmaster, but like they still got fucking totaled, man. I had two mates. I had one of them broke both his femurs on the steering wheel, and then another guy fucking kissed a Mag 58 and like lost all his teeth. So like guys are still getting fucked up, but just because we didn't lose anyone doesn't mean that those things weren't getting destroyed. 14 of them. Fuck, mate.
Yeah, we did a recovery mission over there, and which, as you know, they're the shit ones because I know you're coming back for the vehicle or whatever, but literally as they're designed and shaped, one wheel was 100 meters one way and the other was 140. So I don't know if it hit like a double stack thing or that's a pretty big bang to move those big ass wheels that far. They're probably 280 kilos a tire. Yeah.
Yeah, shit, man. And did you ever get close to any of that sort of stuff, or was that just like, yeah, there was one down there was one that way or something?
Kind of saw it and heard it, that first one with the Hilux, and then about 85 locals climbed out of it as they do. That was, I guess, seeing it and hearing it. That's enough to sort of let you know what's going on anyway, for sure. Bit different if you turn up after the fact and you see the vehicle laying there, but when I think that the sights and sounds of it sort of put it in context.
Yeah, especially when it shakes the fucking earth, and you're a bit like, man, like I don't know anything that's got the power to shake the earth beneath my feet. Like from a couple of k's away, it's fucking. They're so powerful, hey. And then they're not even the big ones. You know what I mean? They're just like a standard one.
Pretty scary what they can do with not a lot. Palm oil containers and just wire a few things up and
100%, bro. And were you guys doing a lot of like treating of local wounded people as well?
We did a few of those sort of, I guess, patrols like aimed at that and sort of helped out some local farmers and stuff like that. But not too much of that. I guess that was all sort of patrol based driven, so they'd have a medic there and people. Yeah, such a weird race of people, mate. I remember talking to one of the medics and he said one of the locals came up and he was upset that his wife wasn't giving him sons, and when the medics and that sat in and talked to him, he was having anal sex with his wife and wondering why she wasn't giving him kids. Like how I don't even know how you exist as a civilization or a race of people if you can't get that right. Like
I mean you got to procreate, right? You can't procreate. Like maybe that's it's fucking it's Darwinism, mate. But in other ways, mate, they're fucking brilliant. Like the flood irrigation, the way that they do their crops, and they just move a couple of rocks and the water's all down there now. Like they were such a
system of who gets water when, and that's some stuff about it. You're like, just that life and the way they use the land. It really is a modern day Vietnam. Like they just know how to use their own terrain and territory, and they know it inside out. And that becomes an issue for us that don't. Like and I was carrying a 58. So when, if they knew you were coming and the fields were flooded, you sink in halfway up to your shin in mud and crap trying to, get across those fields and do patrols and stuff. So they're
Yeah,
not.
shit. So did you get any chance to fucking engage the enemy, or was it was just like it never really happened to you sort of thing?
Yeah, nah, mate. I was only in country 6 weeks. So a lot of that time we were moving around with Pete Connolly with the CO, and then it was so it was 17th of July in the afternoon. I think Pete could tell we were a pretty sort of fit, motivated section. We just wanted to you want to get into it the first time. When you're over there, you just want to let's just you want to get it out of the way, like without being reckless, and seeing how you work as a team and seeing how individually you cope with that pressure. Like, it's not like you can catch a bus home if you don't like it. You know, you've got to stay there and grind it out anyway. So you're better off getting amongst it as quick as you can, I think. Um, Pete added us to a patrol on the 18th for the next day on the 18th of July. Added our section to another platoon. And it should have been the easiest job in the world. We were just going to sit at the back and do a bit of puck handling. And this is the incident where I got blown up, and Ben Ranaudo unfortunately got killed. So our section got added to one of the other platoons. They said we were going in to this village to find an OID maker or something like that. And, rattled off this brief and stuff. And our job was pretty simple, mate. Like, we left under the cover of darkness about 1 a.m, patrolled in about 5Ks, sort of set up this village. I was on the 58, so I was lying down behind that. Had engineer assets and everything with us. They'd gone through, like, in front, because we were at the back of the patrol essentially, like, gone right through where this thing was buried. Engineers hadn't picked it up. Locals were sitting in near it, so that tell wasn't there either. They normally know where they're buried. They won't go near it. So there's a few pucks that we sort of had sitting with us. I was lying there behind the gun for probably, I don't know, it's best part of 2 hours. It's probably 6 in the
Shit.
morning, or before 6 in the morning. And as you know, you're not perfectly still. Like, I probably moved around a bit, got up. Like, that area had been deemed safe because everyone had gone through there. And then, moved my right foot back, initiated an anti-personnel mine. Fucking just got launched hard into the air. No idea what was going on, but still conscious, and your brain's just running through all these crazy scenarios. Hit the ground pretty hard. It's just dust and shit everywhere, and that real high pitch ring in your ear, like my right eardrum being blown out. I'm thinking we'd been RPG'd from another feature. Like, all that's going through my mind, because I'm like, locals are there. They didn't even comprehend that this thing could have been underneath us, because people have gone through. I don't know, mate. It's one of those things like we were talking about earlier. It's not callous, but it's how your brain needs to accept things. That just, when your time's up, your time's up. And I hate to even say it that way, but you'll turn yourself inside out trying to question decisions you made when you weren't in control of an incident where someone died anyway. So you need to come to Jesus and sort of accept the fact that was their time, I guess. And so the anti-personnel mine was wide up to, I think, 3 or 4 mortar rounds. So
Fucking hell.
yeah, we're in that sense of it, more of us should have been taken out, really. But Ben was maybe 4 or 5 meters away, and a piece of shrapnel from that secondary hit him up under the helmet and killed him straight away. So, my thought process, I didn't know this at this stage, and I hit the ground, and I'm like, all right, I know, I'll get back to him. Started to crawl a little bit, and I looked down, and it had taken my leg off, clean off. So,
Shit.
sort of rolled over onto my back, then just stopped where I was. And then a mate, James Thorne, is one of the first ones that got to me. Yeah, sort of. I think they'd realised that Ben was killed instantly, which the only saving grace there is that he didn't suffer. Like it would happen that quick. You wouldn't even know. Yeah, they got to me and they got me a chopper in 16 minutes, mate. So yeah, pretty lucky because we were out a little bit. So people that don't know about that golden hour, once you lose a limb, you probably got 60 minutes to get them into a hospital or get some sort of decent treatment, or your chances of keeping them alive are not that good. So yeah, just had good people around me, mate. Paul De Gelder's sister was actually there. Jackie De Gelder was out on patrol with us. So small world that is. And now we get our prosthetics made by the same guy before he went to the US. So yeah, Jackie was pretty amazing that day as well. They punched those things into your bone marrow to feed fluid in, because obviously your veins had collapsed and stuff.
Yeah.
Mate, they hurt. That hurt more than my leg.
Really?
Yeah.
Fuck, mate. What are they? I know you've spoken about this on other podcasts, and I hope you don't mind, mate, because I know it's probably not the most pleasant fucking thing to talk about in the world. But I want to ask a couple of specific questions, and a couple of them might be a bit weird, man. But I didn't realise that Benny got hit with shrapnel. I thought he was obliterated in the blast, because I never heard your story from start to finish like that. I thought he was just completely obliterated. And you guys were like sitting in the same spot or something, like maybe he was directly on top of it, for example. I didn't know he got hit by shrapnel. So obviously there was an attempt to save his life, and they would have realised pretty quickly that he was gone, sort of thing.
Yeah, and I feel for the people that had to get there, see that, and make that call, and then move on to me, essentially. Yeah, I hear what you're saying, mate. No, I was sort of told that information a fair bit down the track, because the army don't tell you a whole lot. And I'm mindful of how public I say it, because I'm still close to Ben's family as well, and mindful as a parent now, mate. That's my worst nightmare, is losing one of my children. Like I couldn't think of anything worse. So mindful of being respectful to that. But yeah, obviously, at the end of the day, and it took me a long time to get good with it, but I've initiated something that's killed him. So that's hard to get your head around too.
Oh, 100%, man. Yeah. And how soon did you realise that he passed away, when you were like landing?
I was asking where he was, because I knew he was the closest one to me. And I've thought it was weird that someone else that was further away was treating me. Like somehow still had that perception. I was still pretty conscious for a bit. Near the end, I was probably starting to go cold and wanted to go to sleep, which is not the best sign. But
No.
once I got onto a chopper, it's in a 50-degree day, probably not the best sign. Once I got on the chopper, I sort of came good, but all these thoughts go through your head, and no one was really answering any questions about him. So I think I kind of knew. And literally, to date, the worst moment in my life would be coming to in TK out of all the surgeries and stuff. They nearly lost me on the table as well, a couple of times, just with blood pressure and stuff like that. So one of my medic mates who was in on the surgery, Deeks, let me know that. So just coming out of that surgery and you're looking around trying to, just hoping he's in a bed beside you, but then had all these 2 or 3 people there, Padre and stuff, telling me what happened. So
Yeah.
pretty
And I
shit.
mean, in at least in terms of assets getting you out of there, they got you on a chopper in 16 minutes. Was Benny on the same chopper as you, or was he kept back?
No, he was kept back, which, I feel for the guys. That's tough, right? Like just having to sit there with one of your mates who's deceased. And the hard thing about Benny was he he put a smile on anyone's face. He was around, like he was that. I don't know, a lot of people say that sort of stuff about you, you know, when you're no longer here. I hope that's not the case with me. I hope people tell the truth and say I was a cunt and stuff instead of making up stories. But he was that guy, mate. He was made to do SF stuff. That was sort of his ambition down the track. Super fit, you know, recon qual. He'd already done Timor. Like and he was bush driving as well. So he was driving our bushy as well as that. So he was a bit annoyed he wasn't getting to go out on a few patrols because they were keeping him with the vehicle. So, but yeah, he was. I've got a photo in my book, and it just describes him perfectly. We stopped at another patrol base, and we were talking about they get sensitive about. They wanted us to use the homemade toilets, and someone cottoned onto the fact that the officers had like an actual one inside. Benny snuck in to use that, and then got caught. So his punishment was at this patrol base we're only visiting anyway. He had to go down and burn all the other shitters. And he's got this wheelbarrow with this thing in it, and he's still got this big shit-eating grin on his face like that. That describes who he was. Like, yeah, he was just a fun, energetic bloke to anyone that sort of worked with him or knew him. Yeah.
And mate, I knew he was going to. Obviously, I knew he was going to come up during this podcast. And there's something I'm thinking of doing. Don't know how I'm going to do it yet, but a lot of people that come on the podcast have lost friends, whether it be to suicide or the same incident as them, or in combat or whatever it is. And a lot of them get mentioned on the podcast because these people are significant to the person that's a guest. I don't know what it is that I want to do, but I want to make something to like keep all those names alive, at least like collectively have them somewhere and be like, this was Benny Ranaudo. This is who he really was. This is Lance Cornett. He was a Delta Force guy, or Joe Andres or whatever. Like I want to do something to keep these names alive, and I just don't know what it is yet, man. So, bro, work with me on that after the potty because I want you to help me do something.
Yeah, I think it needs to come from us, those sort of ideas. Like I don't want to get started on the veteran charity space here because
it's a swamp, mate.
I think they've turned our space into a business and just trying to funds aren't going where they should be going, and to say even at the moment there's a big walk going on and we're raising money to stop suicide. Like the intent's good. Show me where that money goes. What are you actually trying to do? And that's kind of drives where I work now, mate. Like when you're medically discharged, whether it's with a mental or a physical, impairment or illness or whatever, normally the option for you is take your DVA pension and sit at home. Like Rheinmetall gave me the keys to build a program, and mate, we've got a couple of amputees out there. We've got people with PTSD. A workplace can manage that, and I know they're not at risk because they've got something meaningful to do every day. They've got a good team around them. They're still driven by service and helping military, and they play a part in that through industry rather than being in the Army or Navy or Air Force. Like there's so many options where we can do this for people. And this incident, like it's prevalent with that because we lost Jesse Bird on the back of that to suicide as well. Like,
yes, yeah, mate. Is this? I won't go into the details, but I'm pretty sure I heard of that like a couple of years later. How much later was that?
It was a fair bit later. I remember Tomo and I caught up with him in Melbourne once, and then when I sort of did my book, I went down to Melbourne. I caught up with him then. Looking back now, I could kind of tell something was off. He just wasn't fitting into, meaningful jobs. He just kind of was just floating a little bit and not the really driven. He was an athlete, mate. I think he was part of the Dolphins Olympic swim squad while he was still at school. Like he was a big, strong dude. Like I'm 6'1". He made me feel little. Like just a good guy. And I really think if we helped him in his transition don't even know if you can use that word in defence anymore since it's been hijacked. But
Yeah.
He needed it. People that leave defence need career pathway options, not here's your money, sit at home, take your pain meds, drink, be an alcoholic until you kill yourself. And I think there's a lot of businesses now that can sort of really do that and buy into it. And not only that, it's a need for us, like where I work at Rheinmetall, like we need people with security clearances and military knowledge to come and work on these vehicles. Like it just joining the dots, mate. It's pretty simple.
Yeah. And mate, that's such an interesting point. And I want to, if you're okay, I want to go back to your incident first, cover off a couple of things, and then I actually want to finish the podcast on that point because it's so relevant to some stuff that was happening with a friend of mine a couple of days ago. And I want that to be the big takeaway from this fucking podcast. You're right. If we do that, if we just go back to the incident a little bit. Yeah. Cheers, man. And like I said, a couple of my questions might be a little bit obscure, bro, but just because I actually don't know. Where was your leg severed? Below the knee, above the knee?
Below to the knee, and this is a big point of conjecture with me as well. With, like I said, you take an extra water bottle from the Q store, they'll be ringing you 5 years later to harass you about it. But they couldn't tell me why I was an above knee amputee by the time I got back to Australia when I saw my knee. Like, I get it, and I don't think it's, I was operated on in TK, like as soon as I got off that chopper. I was on the chopper with, I think he was like a 10-year-old kid, a local kid. He'd lost half his foot and was fragged across his chest and that. The boys had to catch him. He just went running with half a foot. Like, but I think, the Americans that sent the chopper and managed to save him as well. This is part of my frustration. We're not forth. The military's got all this information and can be really anal about things, but then when it comes to some stuff you want to know about, and I feel that's your right since you're involved in that critical incident, it's to my body, like that I need to adjust to now. Like, I wasn't told anything, mate. Believe it or not, I was working on Nauru in between 2013 and 2015 with a lot of the other army boys. And I got sent an email by a Dutch guy, and he goes, "Are these your surgery pictures?" And I'm like, "Yeah." I hope, that's me. And I said, "I hope you're the first person. I'm the first person you've sent these to, because obviously they're real graphic, and I'm just lying there like naked, just balls out." Like,
it's huge cock.
Definitely can't even clean a cold day in Afghan, mate. But he explained everything to me. What, like, that burns me. Like, everyone perceives the military as this big, well-oiled machine. Why did I have to wait years to be told by a stranger that lives on the other side of the world why my body was in the state it was in? Like that. Yeah. That really annoyed me. And he sent me through all of it, showed me the process, showed me why my knee wouldn't work. I've got those photos, and I'm even happy to send them to you, mate. But I had a lot of soft tissue damage behind my knee, and it was never going to work. So they took me above the knee. But somewhere between one of the air bases in Afghan, because obviously went from TK, either Kandahar, Bagram, or the other way around. I can't even remember, mate. To be fair, I think it was Bagram, and then Kandahar's the big airfield, isn't it?
Yeah, big airfield, Kandahar. I don't know. I was never there. I just know of it. Yeah. Same as Bagram.
Either way, mate. One of the two. Like, and then left from there. So they'd taken me above the knee by then. Because there's a big difference in your function, right? Like, between a blown knee can still run.
Yeah, massive.
Or can still run with a normal action. You're just landing on something different. I got back to running, but the action's very different when you're an above knee. Prosthetics are a heap more expensive. It's different learning how to walk and stuff like that. But mate, at the end of the day, Benny helps me every day put things in context. Like, if
I get up and I'm sore, I'm alive and I'm feeling something. If I'm aggravated, I'm feeling something. I will never feel sorry for myself, mate. It's not a thing.
Yeah, and mate, you've never ever you've never given me that impression either. You know what I mean? Like you've always, we've only had reasonably limited interaction. We've met a few times, but like I know of you through a bunch of mutual mates, and I've just never ever got that impression from you that you're like, oh, I'm a wounded veteran and I do this and I do that. You just, it's almost like you forget sometimes.
Yeah. As a parent, that's the best example I can set for my kids too. Like, and that mindset, which I think back at the start of the podcast, it's all forged in martial arts, really, that mindset of, some days you're the hammer, some days you're the nail, and that sort of sport. And you learn to pick yourself up physically and emotionally. And there was just no way I was going to, being a dad, and, my daughter's 13 now, my son's 11. They weren't going to see me sit home feeling sorry for myself. Like, that's not the example you set to your kids. Like, sometimes life doesn't go your way, and you need to get up and get on with it.
Yeah. And mate, take me through your recovery. Did they take you to Landstuhl in Germany?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And is that where your actual rehabilitation recovery starts, or is that purely medical intervention?
Purely medical, mate. The thing that the military were good at, I had my brother down as next of kin. Because I didn't want anyone. I knew he could handle getting that phone call if something happens. They organised his passport and got him to Landstuhl fairly quickly.
Nice.
Yeah, so he was over there, which was good. But no, it's purely medical, mate. I was going in for surgery every second day. It's obviously a big risk is infection. So I was scrubbing the tissue, making sure everything was clean every second day. Time frames are still a bit fuzzy. Like, I don't know if I was there for a week or I was there for 2 weeks, or just in and out of it a little bit. And then it was a Qantas plane home, mate, from there. I'm on a stretcher. They've taken me to the airport in Germany, and then had me in this medical room, which is good. And they'd send a nursing team over from Australia, because obviously I had, IVs and all sorts of stuff going on, to keep pain under control and stuff like that. And where the plane, you go down the back of the plane, the backs of the seats are like that. And you got where you put your bag in, this thing was hanging and the stretcher sort of sat there. So
Hectic.
I was on the seats and just looking at the bag
Turbulence, just like
got 12 hours to I had a little bit of a gap, but 12 hours to back to Singapore. And then, they tried to get and had this little curtain around me, which just made it worse. Because this Hannibal Lecter sort of thing, everyone's like, behind the curtain.
Just about to say, yeah.
Just made people curious, and nurses would come down and open it up, sort out my IVs and stuff, and then close it back up. But I think Singapore was bad, because they're not big people either, so you got to reach up. And I was still probably, I was 88 kilos when I was deployed, and I was not light. The time I got back to Australia, I was about 70, 72 though. Just nothing but pain meds, didn't want to eat. Everything starts to waste away pretty quick. But these little Singaporean dudes are trying to get me down, and then they had to get me out through the little galley kitchen of the plane, and they've tipped me up a little bit. Ooh. And put all pressure on my left foot, which had surgery and skin grafts. I wasn't even sure if I had a big toe left at that stage, and under the ball on my foot, and I'd put all my weight there, and it started bleeding and opening up. It was a bit of a mess, but definitely pretty glad to get back to Australia. Landing in Brisbane, I still kind of remember that. Just wanted to be home, mate.
Yeah. And there's a big cultural thing there that, in the US, for example, when the height of the Iraq War, Afghan War, they would bring guys home in the stowage in the coffins, right? And they'd take them off the plane, they'd do the ceremony, and it was, there's videos on YouTube and people clap when there's veterans and stuff. Was there anything like that for you, or was it just like, don't say anything, put him behind the curtain sort of thing?
Yeah, nothing, mate. Straight, yeah. No, nothing like that. And I probably wouldn't have appreciated that at the time anyway, to be fair. Like,
Yeah, yeah.
I wouldn't have the capacity to even, I don't know.
To care or say anything or do
Yeah,
anything about it.
yeah, it would have been just a vegetable full of morphine going, what's this about? Like, yeah. But I think the thing that sort of did hurt, they were starting to do things with repatriating Ben and stuff like that. And I couldn't, just couldn't be part of it, mate. Obviously, like, so he got picked up in an ambulance from Brisbane Airport, taken back. I was just in Enoggera talking to SRC soldiers a couple of weeks ago, actually. It was 2HSB, the 2nd Health Support Battalion. I think it's 2HB or something. Like, what they like. You got to change the name every couple of years. I was there for 5 months. So initially they told me to be 12 months. And I'm like, yeah, I'll be home before Christmas. Like, yeah. So I was up. And Damien Tomlinson was injured about the same time. 2009 was the first blast injuries we'd probably seen as a defence force since the end of Vietnam, really. Michael Lydiard, I know Lids, he was probably one of them, maybe a little bit before us. But in terms of legs, because Lids is his arm, and he lost an eye as
And
well.
his eye as well, yeah.
Like Lids. But yeah, in terms of legs, it was DeGelda, Damien, and then me all in 2009. So yeah.
Yeah, shit. And so last couple of questions, mate, about the actual blast itself. And I want to talk about post, like recovery and then post-military career and stuff. What are the injuries? Because it's not just like a knife, just cut your leg off. It was a fucking messy blast with shit everywhere. Like, what other injuries did you get from that blast? Like you said, your foot and whatnot.
Yeah, it took me a while to walk. I think I was up walking about 6 weeks, but this is the thing, like we're all competitive. Like Damien was up walking in this time and DeGelda was walking in this time. Like, yeah, fuck you guys. I'm gonna do the same thing. I think DeGelda beat us, but yeah, my left foot was pretty messed up. I'm really lucky. I'm extremely lucky, mate. Like my lower back. And just going back to Germany for a second, my brother came in and they rolled me over and they had to change dressings. Probably as round as a 50-cent piece, these 2 holes, and you could probably see an inch or 2 into my back. And we were wearing the big clunky McBass then.
Yeah.
Like it was big and heavy and it just made you feel like a target when you were trying to run and actually fight. But I can't bag it, mate. Like, yeah. And I got drawn into that too. The army, the 2RL boys that were deploying, then an army saying, "Nah, this is good body armor," and they wanted to go to an Eagle Marine type thing, which is a bit more lighter weight. And I'm like, oh, I can't bag this heavy one. Like, if you saw my lower back and my ass, like it's just, peppered with shrapnel and stuff like that. But as for the big ones, yeah, my brother went green and fucking half passed out. You're a pussy, like when he saw these holes in the back. I was lucky they missed my spine because if that hits me in the center of the spine, then I'm in a wheelchair. Like,
oh yeah,
yeah, a lot of that sort of stuff. Just had, I think, my 17th surgery not long ago. Unfortunately, I snapped a piece of, because I've got that implant into my femur now that sits in my bone and my leg attaches to that.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a bit going on with that, mate. Like some legal stuff, I think. So,
okay.
I don't want to get into that too much on here. I'll talk to you later. But, yeah, part broke and they had to sort of cut away some bone to get in there. So, a bit of a painful sort of recovery. But my ear surgery was the worst, like 5 hours because the eardrum and stuff had just been blown out. Yeah, so they had to go in there, cut the lid off the eardrum, pull it back, put a skin graft down, put that back on top. Yeah, because I think you can disassociate with limb pain, right? Like if you really use your mind a little bit, you can focus on different things. And if it's your finger or like your limbs, you can disassociate with it. But if it's in your head, you can't. You just can't.
Yeah.
That drove me nuts for a little bit. Not wearing hearing aids yet, but it's coming. Just feels like I'm underwater on the right side a little bit. If it's you and I talking, yeah, no dramas. But if we're at a table at a pub or a function and there's 12 people and all background noise, yeah, I can't hear too much. But yeah, a little bit banged up here and there, mate. But yeah, not too bad really. Hasn't stopped me doing anything I wanted to do since, really. Like some stuff needed to be different and needed to be changed, and the way you go about it's different. And obviously I've had to give up running now because there's that implant in my femur. But I'm 45. I'm probably not running too far these days anyway. So I'd probably rather swim or use a roller than run anyway, really, to be fair.
Yeah, nice, man.
Yeah.
And mate, last one, and I'll leave the incident alone, man. We'll let that one lie. But how conscious were you immediately post blast? How aware were you of the pain, your surroundings, what was going on?
All of it, mate. All of it. I
Yeah.
remember everything. Yeah. I remember the whole lot. Yeah. Yeah, some decent chin from fighting. So I don't think the medics expected to find me conscious, to be fair. Like, I still remember the feeling of it. Like, it's wild. We spoke about before, like these things can make the ground shake from 40, 50 meters away, let alone when you're on top of it. Like,
Yeah.
if I close my eyes, you can almost feel it, like just this wave that hits your face. Like I said to someone, it's like being smacked in the face with a shovel. Like, yeah. And then, yeah, remember just sort of being thrown up, hitting the ground, and then, yeah, trying to get back to Ben. So, yeah, it's a bit to deal with mentally, but, and I'm not going to, I think a lot of these podcasts you do, mate, with people, not you do, but in general, and retrospectively talking about mental health and veterans, oh yeah, but you're now doing this, and this. That doesn't mean there wasn't a hard path. Like we've all gone through those dark times, mate. I think men need to be more open and honest about that, because one of the worst things you can do is go, yeah, I lost my leg, but it's cool. Met Prince Harry, did Invictus Games, did this, did that, and then someone at home that doesn't have those physical injuries going, why do I feel so shit then? No, you'll, yeah. There's dark times for everyone at some point, and it's just how quickly you process that and you put a plan in place or a process in place to get past that. And I think that's the key for all of us, whether you're physically injured or not, if we want to get on top of the suicide thing.
Yeah. And mate, I'm gonna throw you a curly question. I hope this doesn't get you in trouble, bro. How do you navigate the veteran space and the wounded and the mental health space? So you've obviously got a very obvious physical injury. You've been through some mental struggle as well. That's a part of that. How do you navigate that space, knowing that there potentially are people out there that might play on their injuries, their mental injuries, or I don't know, maybe aren't the best ambassadors for the veteran space, for example? Is that a fucking hard thing for you to do? That's why, and that's honestly, that's why I stay away from that kind of space, because I don't know how to deal with it.
Yeah, mate. Yeah, and I can even give you some examples that put it in context. It is frustrating. I think it's pushed away more people than it's helped, to be fair. And and I've worked for Mates and Mates in Townsville. We did some good things there. There's still like a wheelchair basketball program going there that Phil Thompson and I put together after the first Invictus Games. Because it was a mad swan trip. Like, it was cool. It was, Invictus was something else, mate. Foo Fighters played for us at the embassy, like snipers on the roof. You're at a good party when that's going on. Like, it's all the connections with, you look at the US and UK team, they literally roll in. They got people missing 2 limbs, 3 limbs, so many wheelchairs, people on double prosthetics. And then you look at some of the people, squeaky wheels that we've taken, and we're playing games of wheelchair rugby, and they're just getting up and walking out of their chairs after the game. Like it started to lose integrity for me a little bit. And I went on to captain the team at the second one in Orlando in 2016. And I was so frustrated by it, mate. Like I had to explain to the CDF why I quit after that. And I wanted to have that conversation because to me, people like Jesse Bird, that, he's an athlete at heart. You could have got him back on track with something like that. But given that we're picking these squeaky wheel people, and mate, some of them didn't, without going into details, some of them weren't even respected in their own fucking battalions or units. Like they barely finished bush X's, and you're going to give this person Australian team kit and send them off on one of the best things you could do. Like that pushes people that need your help further to the back of the bus. And I think that's a good analogy sometimes for the space, the ESO, that space in general. Like, are we helping the squeaky wheel? And then that just pushes everyone to the back of the bus because they go, I'm not that guy or I'm not that person. And we all know there's been some issues with Invictus, people saying they did things they didn't. Once again, I go back to the Singo water bottle analogy. Like, how can you send, like, it's fraud essentially. Like, yeah, I got so over it, mate. I'm just like, and I can honestly say I hardly saw my partner that trip. I did everything asked of me. I worked with ESPN. I did all the media commitments. Like it was 2016 wasn't a swan trip. It was work. Like I was, being the captain, you had different responsibilities. Cool thing was I did a mental health symposium on ESPN and George Bush was on there. Prince Harry was on there, and we did get to learn a lot, but we didn't pick up those lessons. Like 2014, Tomo and I literally wrote a bit of a plan down and said, Invictus and what we saw is a sign that the Australian Defence Force rehabilitation system is failing or not anywhere near as optimum as the UK, US. That's why Invictus is important. Learning lessons, working together, all the same issues that the US and UK have, we have as well. How do you get services to veterans that want to go out in the middle of nowhere and isolate themselves? Coming up with more online counselling and these sort of things to look after them. Like, they're the lessons we should have learned. And I just got that frustrated by having to babysit people on that 2016 trip that, I quit after that, mate.
Yeah. And I know it's a fucking curly question, man. And like I said, I don't want to get you in trouble because you've been an ambassador for that type of stuff. And you're probably still in that space to some degree. And I'm going to try my bestest not to go on a fucking soapbox rant.
I'd rather be upfront and honest, and I'd rather have these conversations because I think not only the people that are going to watch your podcast that are military, the people that aren't, have a look where you're putting your money. Like, where is it really going to? Some of these charities that say they do suicide prevention and do all this stuff, they've just brought it. If I want to be a plumber, I go to TAFE. I'd expect that a plumber runs that course, right? So why do I go to an ESO and someone that's never served, that's got a business background, is running that charity?
Yeah, and that's where it gets a bit hairy. Not hairy, but like, I don't know how to navigate this space. There's only one charity I donate to, and that's the 079 Foundation, because I literally know the guy that runs it. And I've been involved in it, and I know it's not a fucking big wank fest. Because if it was, I wouldn't be involved. But for me in that space, mate, I'm like, I go, there's got to be some lingers out there that take advantage of the stuff, etc., and then push away the people that really need the help. And then another little part of me goes, well, who the fuck am I to say that guy's mental health injury isn't real or that they're actually struggling? And then I just go back and forth between those two. I'm like, well, where's the balance? Is there a threshold for what's an injury that's worthy of being treated and worthy of being sent to the Invictus Games? And is there one that's not? And then if there is and isn't, who's the one that decides? And I just don't want to put myself in a position where I'm the judge, jury, and executioner because fuck it, the only issues that I've really had from the military were like not actually from the military. Like my mental health shit was from a divorce. I just happened to be in the military. Military fucking made it made it worse. That didn't help.
Yeah.
But I'm not sitting around saying I've got PTSD from my deployments because I simply don't. In my experience, in my opinion. But yeah, I don't know, man. It's just it's such a hard space for me to navigate and to reconcile because I'm like, I haven't come to a conclusion yet.
I think there's two parts to that. Like, yes, we all know there's people that are taking the piss and people sitting at home on lifelong pensions that don't deserve them because they've either, played up on stuff or crawled into the fetal position. But the second part of that is, and it comes into play with like Ryan and I coaching now too, you've gone into an SF environment. People have different mental resilience thresholds, mate. Like what we class as traumatic, might not be for SASR guys or a paramedic that sees that stuff day in, day out. First responders, but then there's people that just, if you're gonna ask me where it starts, it's got to start with Defence Force recruiting. You're so busy trying to hit numbers that are you really putting the right people in the right seats? Fuck no, you're not. You're not. And our first night at Kapuka highlighted that to me. Like, I put this in my book too, and I take my hat off to him. He was a young cowboy-looking bloke. I think he walked in a RM sort of shirt and that. And, mate, he was probably there 15 minutes and put his hand up with all the yelling and shouting and went, "This isn't for me. See you later." Like, I commend him for that, and I commend the staff for that because they put him under enough pressure where he went, "This is not for me." And if that's not for you, then being deployed in the middle of nowhere, being blown up and seeing your mates killed, well, that's definitely not for you. Like,
Yeah. And you brought up another good point, mate, because a lot of the stuff I do at this business is based on like law enforcement, canine handler feedback, and it post-military being introduced to the first responder space. It's really opened my eyes because I'm like, in my entire 12-year military career, every critical incident, every potentially traumatic thing that I was involved in, a first-year constable police officer would do that literally in their first year and probably exceed that far. I mean, the mechanism might be different. Maybe it's not artillery or getting shot at or an IED. It's, delivering a death notice or a fucking car crash. The trauma is the same. It's like,
same trauma, different uniform, I always say.
Mate, yeah, and I do this, and I don't know if I should or shouldn't, but I do this comparison between military veterans and like the first responder space. They do that shit day in, day out, every fucking day for years. And it's not always some Afghan guy you don't give a fuck about. It's your neighbour's kids. It's an old lady that fell down some stairs, or it's, going back to the same DV house or whatever it is.
Yeah.
I just think, yes, our military, fucked. My chair almost broke. That was actually military related. I need to pay out for that. Yes, the military veterans need support, et cetera, but I'm like, do you know how many fucking cops, ambos, fireys, nurses, doctors, security guards out there that have had like 1,000,000,001 hectic, life-changing incidents day in, day out, and I just don't get this shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%, mate. Like, yeah, there's so much of a frustration with the DVA system, and obviously I talked to Phil a fair bit about this too because, and he mentioned my name in Parliament not long ago, and hopefully it triggers a sit down with the DVA minister because I think this system's failing in a massive way at the moment. While they're happy to stand up there and report that all things are good. So I snapped this implant in my leg, right? It literally comes out of my femur. It's drilled up into the bone. Bit comes out and attaches my leg to it. That snapped. So obviously wasn't stable. Literally put me from being active, working, coaching to back on the couch sort of thing, like, and not being mobile. Called DVA, got passed around to 6 or 7 different departments, and they're like, just go and hire a wheelchair. What? Like, beg
Okay.
your pardon? Like, you know, this legal thing that says you've claimed accountability or accepted liability for my injury. Like, yeah, but the thing with this is, I think we are starting to be overreactive, almost like that post-Vietnam era. So, who hasn't got a gold card at the moment? But what DVA has failed to do is to separate them into categories like people in wheelchairs, people that need prosthetics, um, you know, people at that real high level of impairment, or that rely on, you know, if a part breaks for me, like, how do I get to work? How do I provide for my kids? Like, how do I? And then the same for people in wheelchairs and stuff like that. Um, I think we've just gone into this one big pool because everyone's got a gold card, and you just get lost in there. They've failed to really separate complex cases from everyone else. And it's not like we are the US and UK where we've got 100 people that are blown up and missed limbs. Like, how many have we got from Afghan or Iraq? 12? 10, 12? Tops. Tops. I could probably name most of them. Like, it's not. And this was floated around years ago. Yeah, but I know, you know, the Americans have a Purple Heart, and we don't want to do everything like America. But I think if you did something like that, and you could have a couple of layers of different things with this award, so injured on operations, like the Purple Heart criteria is pretty stringent. You need to have fought in the face of, you know, America's enemies and all this sort of stuff. So you have something like that at the top level, which means you've got a severe level of impairment that should go across the DVA and go, hey, he's got this, which means he's in one of these categories. And then next level down, there's been some severe injuries, but not necessarily on operations. We've had people killed on training exercises, as you know. All right, this has happened in Australia. This is, you know, the citation or whatever goes with this. That puts you in this category, because at the moment we're all in one big pool, mate, and it's not working for anyone. You ring up DVA and they're just confused. Everyone's got a gold card now. So how do you manage and prioritize or separate the really complex cases from others? Like, I think something like that would help. And I don't want to wear a medal. This is not me gong chasing. I fucking hate people like that. I can't stand them. And yeah, a big thing with that is, I think the 2018 Invictus that was here in Australia, they decided to renew the sporting medal and give it to only the 2018 team. So not the 2014 team that put programs together for the 2016 team to be successful. Yeah, and it was a gong chaser from 2 Commando. I'll tell you his name off.
No.
Who instigated all this? I reckon you'd know who it is. And I'm like, you know what? I don't want to why would I wear a sporting medal next to medals where one of my good mates got killed? Like, I wouldn't disrespect him like that. Keep your sporting medal. Like,
Yeah.
Why do you need a medal when you're given an opportunity to represent your country? Like, Invictus was hardly work. It's a pretty fucking amazing event. You shouldn't be given a medal when you got to represent your country. But going back to the main thing of it, I really think if they implemented something like that, and, you know, our processes and you know, with defence implementing SAP and more of those sort of things now, it should help a lot more people from a DVA perspective, but also from when you discharge, because instead of this paper documents, med docs, where you're chasing all this stuff up, if they implement SAP properly and you go, you know, you're jumped off a truck at high range, broke your ankle on this date, when it comes time to discharge and they're saying it's a voluntary discharge, that should flag it and go, hang on a minute, you're a medical separation because of this. Because too many people are clogging up that DVA system now because they were allowed to leave voluntarily when it should have been a medical separation, and now they're trying to turn them over retrospectively. I know so many people doing that at the moment, and that's their right. I'm not saying But it's a system failure that we've got so many people doing that. Why were they allowed to leave voluntarily in the first place when now they're trying to turn it over retrospectively, which once again just clogs up the DVA system. It's a bit of a clown show, mate. Like, they can stand up in Parliament, this new DVA minister, and say it's running real well, but when Tomo said, your department literally told me, wounded an Afghan to go and hire a wheelchair when I can't even, what am I going to do? Take crutches to the shop and ask to hire a wheelchair? Like, then what?
Yeah.
Just wheel myself out of there with my crutches, put it all in the car. Like, come on now.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just a
Like
shit fight
working with a cheap insurance company, mate.
Oh, what? Sorry.
It's like working with a cheap insurance company. And I think with the complex injuries, here's where I do get annoyed, and it's not about money and payouts and financial stuff, but I know people, because your pension's calculated on your age till retirement, right? So if you're older, they expect you'll get a lot lesser pension because they expect you to be more financially stable. So I know people that have got maximum compensation, higher pension than mine, without the injuries, and they're probably out there kayaking and fucking rock climbing and doing whatever now. Like, yeah, I don't even know how that equates. Where my working life, at some point, and this is just the reality of it, I can't see myself working till 65. Like, my body's gonna pack it in by then. There's been a real failure in the system. Like, some of these people have got maximum compensation, higher pensions, when they've got nowhere near the complexity of injuries as others. Like, the system's just failed to categorize people on that impairment. The whole impairments point system's just bullshit.
Yeah, and it's so easy to manipulate too, you know what I mean? Like, I think I kind of got lucky with some of the doctors and stuff that I've seen about, my back or my shoulder or whatever. And I've never felt that they're like guiding me down the garden path. Like, oh, tell them that this happened and tell them that happened. I've been lucky that I've had doctors that had a lot of integrity, guys like Kieran McCarthy that were like, that aren't trying to tell me to fucking go maximize my points and embellish stories or whatever. So yeah. I've always good in that sense, but I know that's not always the case, man.
No.
And I actually think it's a huge money issue as well, because at the end of the day, DVA is a fucking government like organisation, cabinet, whatever the fucking word is, department. Department of Veteran Affairs, yeah. They have X amount of money, and that's taxpayers' money. And like, surely at some point the taxpayers are going to be like, I thought Afghanistan finished 20 years ago. Like, who's this fucking guy that fell off a chair or something in at the boozer or whatever? Like, why's my taxpayer money paying for that guy? Like, I reckon something's got to give at some point. We can only bang on about veteran for so long before somebody goes, shut up, just fucking do something, get a job, mate.
Yeah, and it comes back to one of those Invictus stories, mate. In 2016, like, the opening and closing is really good, and you know what the Yanks are like. They're fully just loud and proud with their military stuff, and like choppers,
jets flying overhead and American flags and stuff. Yeah.
This girl came up, she had like talking PTSD, but she had like 5 or 6 different colours in her hair. I'm like, all right, PTSD is introverted behaviour. You're not showing me that. And then she's like, oh no, I can't. Just made a big deal of not being at the opening, can't see choppers. Then you find out she was a clerk. I'm like, what, did someone rappel through your office and kick the door in? Like, come on now. Like, but you laughed, and I know that. Why aren't there people in the Department of Veteran Affairs that know that? They're just giving them payouts and giving, like, it's fucking ludicrous, mate. They're giving these people everything they want.
Because all it takes is one, mate. All it takes is one for someone to get knocked back and they go, you don't have PTSD, or you don't have X, Y, Z. And then they fucking off themselves. And then you're like, oh, shit. Fuck, all right. Let's never fucking let that happen again. Let's give everyone the money. And I feel like a total hypocrite saying this, because I've been the recipient of some stuff from DVA and ComSuper and whatnot. And I again, that's something else that I struggle with. I'm like, do I actually deserve it? Was my, you know, we all do it, mate. We compare, like, oh, well, I'm not missing a leg, for example. Like, do I deserve my pension? Do I deserve the payout that I got in 2018 or whatever the fuck it was? It's just such a fucking nuanced space
But once
to
again, the
fucking
people that deserve it, mate, are really entitled to it are missing out. Like, I know a young kid from Tuara, accommodation for gallantry from the GAN, and he's like, no, I'm not missing a leg or anything. I don't need this. I'm like,
What's his name? Throw his name out on the
this is
potty.
for you. I will, mate, because he was pretty open and honest, and it is a good listen on Matty's podcast. Kyle Wilson. Love him to bits, mate. Kyle Wilson. Also, love him to bits. He's actually taking part in a veteran fight night soon to raise some money for some guys. Mate, good young kid. Got thrown together with him one day, and someone, I don't know where this analogy came from. Someone told me PTSD is like being gay. And I'm like, you're losing me, but okay.
I told you I fucking don't have it.
Explain this to me. And then this is where I think it sort of came true. They put me with Wilso. I love him to bits, and I've been trying to tell him that he should go and get these entitlements, because it's not just about him, it's about his wife and his kids and providing for his family and stuff like that. And he's got his own business and he's going real well, but the podcast is worth a listen. He's had his struggles, that kid. But when they put us on a checkpoint together in Nauru, and going back to this thing, someone said PTSD is like being a gay guy. He goes, you can tell other people with it, and you can 100% tell people that are trying to justify it and just play the game without actually, you can smell the bullshit a mile away. So from that analogy, it was fair. And with Kyle, 100%. I could tell within 10 minutes, mate.
Yeah.
He's so open and honest on that podcast. It is worth a listen. And it's the situation we put our young men and women in Australia. He's a kid. He's 21 and he had to take lives, and he did it, and he did it well for a bit. But how have we helped him adjust to that and move on? We haven't. Like, once again, he's in that retrospective, trying to turn his discharge over, and the Defence Force needs to do better, particularly when it comes to active, people that have been in combat scenarios. And we should be fixing that right now while we're not in combat scenarios, because there should be two different systems going on: active combat scenarios and actively operations. And then obviously, like I said, with that award, the second tier down, yes, you could be getting banged up. Yes, you could be seeing stuff that's affects your psychological state, but it's at home or it's in training or it should be two different paths.
I think
I got told that DVA can't be fixed because governments don't last that long. So to really overhaul DVA, I think you're looking at, implementing some systems where defence injuries and people management stuff gets flagged. So it's like implementing an SAP or something like that. So that's years and big money. But what I got told is why that can't happen is governments traditionally only last 3 years. And I bet you at the next federal election, we probably change again.
Yeah, it's such a multifaceted problem that, like, we could sit here all day and solve it, but it's just like, I just don't think it's going to get solved, mate. I think something else will pop up. It'll get pushed down the list. We'll forget about it. It'll come back in a few years. We'll go through the same fucking rigmarole.
But it's jobs for the boys again, like we talked about earlier with the defence hierarchy. It's all these ex-major generals. They go and be advisors and stuff to DVA. Like, cool. How many combat operations have you sort of been in where you've actually not sat in an office? Like, you're not one of us. Sorry, but you're not. Have you seen this happen to your mates? Have you seen, all the shit we saw in Iraq and Afghan, and have you been out on the ground and seen it? You don't have a clue. Why are you advising on how to treat us? DVA is suffering because they don't have enough real-time advisors like an advisory group. And I get it that families are having a say, but I think they're having too much say at the moment as well. They haven't worn the uniform, been in the systems, been on combat operations. I think you need to set up an advisory group of people from different units and different experiences that have been through combat operations and try and unfuck this properly.
Yeah. And it's such an emotive topic that as soon as you start throwing your weight around or dropping an opinion, you just get jumped on
Yeah.
by emotional people. You know, like what's that saying? Hurt people, man. They're gonna fucking they're gonna chase after you like a mob.
Well,
But
once
bro,
again, the award thing.
go ahead.
Yeah, we need leaders to actually stand up, mate. I heard that this Purple Heart type equivalent award, and I get it, some people might push back at it, but I think if you can see what I've just laid out, like, you know, the bonuses of that in terms of DVA being able to separate really complex stuff and people that might need more than others, you know, then it comes in handy. But we need leaders to stand up, because this was proposed to one of the Governor Generals, I won't say which one, and it got rejected because he goes, what about the people that miss out? Well, they're not fucking entitled to it, are they?
Oh, everyone should be Prime Minister then.
Everyone gets a gold card. This is where we are right now. It's a mess.
Yeah,
mate.
yeah. It's just indicative of society, right?
Yeah, entitlement.
Yeah. Or we're afraid to be exclusive. You know, what if someone misses out? What if it's not fair to them? Fuck, I don't know. Work harder, do something better, you know, like create a fucking cooler idea.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Yeah. Mate, I'll move on briefly from, or not briefly, but I want to move on from that one because that's a fucking rabbit warren we're never going to come out of, mate.
Yeah.
And I'm conscious of your time. I know that we could fucking riff on this all day, mate, but
Good, mate.
we started touching on before about when people do receive a pension or they're post-military or they get diagnosed with XYZ, they can find themselves sitting around in that life where they're just like, oh, I never have to work again. Yay. And then they just, you know, start drinking, sitting around, no job, kill themselves a few years later. I've got a mate of mine at the moment that's in a similar situation. He's going through some fucking hectic shit. And I told him a couple of days ago, I was like, mate, I'm recording a podcast in 2 days. I fucking guarantee you're going to want to listen to this one because I knew that you've got the same mindset as me in terms of like moving on and fucking doing stuff and achieving and purpose. Can you expand on that bit, mate, when you're talking about purpose and having some meaning and contributing to a society and giving back and being active versus just being passive and sitting there collecting a pension and slowly dying?
Yeah, for sure, mate. I think, someone told me the only thing you get looking back is a sore neck. Right. That's it. Like what the time and place for people that get stuck in that, and we all know there's some veterans out there that they're stuck. They're literally stuck in that time and place. That's not there anymore. The Army's not the same. Defence Force is not the same. They're probably good at rainbow morning teas instead of combat operations now. Everything's changed. It's not the same. If you're looking backwards for something, you'll never ever find it. But if you're initially stuck at home and you're sort of losing that motivation, you've got to. It can't be just I'm going to go and do this and this and this. You've got to find that one thing that you're interested in and that's going to motivate you, and you've got to enjoy doing it as well. Like, and it could be as simple as just getting some routine in your life and going, all right, well, every Wednesday I'm going to catch up with these two mates. I'm going to go out for coffee, get out of the house, like make yourself get out of the house and set a little bit of routine with that. But at the end of the day, we're physical creatures. Like I think I still look at myself as that, even though I get the cool parking spot. Like you can't go away from what you are either. Like, we all get depressed when we put a little bit of weight on, you have a load-bearing injury, or your mental health doesn't let you exercise as much as you want, which is so counterproductive because the best way to fix your mental health is with exercise and diet anyway.
Yeah.
Me, if I can't leave the house or if I get in those real down moods, and we all do, there's no point pretending like life's, ship shape all the time and you're just cruising along, whether it's pain or whether it's, anxiety or whatever, or you just haven't connected into your new life yet away from the military. It's just, for me, it's my sleep, my diet, and exercise. They're the first three things I'll look at. And if I have one of those down days, my rule is, okay, I'll give myself that one day, but I'm in the gym or doing some exercise the next day, or, you know, when I was writing and trying to get my book published, which was purely about men to open up more about this because I was sick of going to funerals, mate. Like, we went through a hectic period for a while, like, and all the boys were coming together, but it was only for a funeral. Like, I felt I was in a unique position where, yes, you can see my physical injury, but when I talked about mental health, that was much worse. Like, trying to navigate that 12 months where I sort of didn't know what my identity was. And you don't have to reinvent that just because you're injured or got PTSD either. You don't think you need to reinvent it. The constant in my life has been martial arts, like, and I'm still involved in that now. But Ryan had to, you know, that's not all perfect either. Ryan had to really convince me that I should go back in there and I had something to offer. Like, I was a bit down on myself, mate. Even, you know, as like a form, like, 2-time Australian champion, I'm like, well, I'm not that guy anymore. Like, but the knowledge and stuff's still there. Like, and it's been one of the best things I've ever done. Like, I have, even if I'm feeling down, I have to leave the house now because I've got people that rely on me. Like, we've got fighters, and, you know, working with their mindset is like a big part of what we do. Like, a fight's won and lost a lot of times before you even get in there if you're mentally a bit wayward. It's just about connecting with, you know, what did you do before the military? What's your identity? What were the parts of your life that drew you to the military? Go back to them. You know, were you a good rugby player? Were you a good, you know, it doesn't mean you have to be fit and able-bodied and be playing rugby again or something like that. But, you know, can you coach? Can you do? There's all these options, mate. But it's just about connecting into that community, and it can be daunting at the start. But the first way I go about it is sort of, connecting with mates. Just get out of the house and try and go, all right, Wednesday morning's going to be my coffee day. We're all going to catch up here for a coffee for a brew at 8:30 or something like that. Get out of the house for a start and just connect with people again. I think it's the best way to start.
Yeah, Matt, and I 100% agree, mate. And you just hit on a couple of points. Like, last couple of years since I left the military, because I left angry and I had this mental health fucking annoying shit going on. I call it annoying, but it was probably a bit more than that. I data dumped everything. I was like, nah, nothing about the military is me. We're done. I cut all that shit away instead of leaning into, like what you said, leaning into the things that actually are me. I thought I had to start again from scratch. And it's funny, you're going to laugh at me when I say this. It's funny that I end up coming back to the same things over and over again, little things that I enjoy. Mate, I love painting little model figurines, little Warhammer, like spacemen sort of thing. I love that shit.
Yeah.
I like bodyboarding, like boogie boarding. I like bodyboarding down the beach. Olympic lifting, reading books, sci-fi, fantasy stuff. Like, I keep coming back to that same shit that I tried to data dump because I was like, I've got to reinvent myself. Like, and we touched on it earlier in the podcast. The military didn't make me. I was already me. Me made me join the army, and me pursued 2 Commando, and then me pursued Origin K9, Stoic Dog, whatever. I think a lot of us forget that, mate. Your identity is it's not the military, it's not your job, it's not, you know, yours is fighting and fitness, and, you know, the military didn't teach you that shit. You already had it.
Yeah, it's true, mate. And like, I think, painting those things is, mate, when my kids are a bit younger, I kind of ended up sitting down for a few hours and just colouring in with my daughter. Like, it just puts your mind somewhere else when you're, you know, particularly in those uncertain sort of, who am I? And we do try and reinvent the wheel instead of leaning into what we already are. Like, I love it, mate. I'm like, being able to coach fighters. I think I'll be a better coach than I was a fighter. That's pretty chaotic too. Like, you've got 2-minute rounds for our amateurs at the moment. I've got 60 seconds in between with all that chaos to try and calm them down, get them to follow a game plan, give them a couple of simple instructions, and then they're at it again. Like, you've got to slow yourself down and be sort of really calm in those chaotic moments. So that I kind of adapt that to my own life, I guess. Like when your mind starts to wander a little bit and you get a bit chaotic, you've got to be able to slow it down and just go back to 2 or 3 key things that are just going to get you sailing again, really.
Yeah. And mate, I heard this quote, and I actually don't know where the fuck it was, probably on Instagram or some shit. But it was like, don't be so focused on the better version of your future self that you forget to take the steps now. And mate, I did that for the longest time. I did last couple of years, mate. That's where I've been. I've been like, oh, I want to be this and I want to be that, and I want to aim for happiness in the future, and this is the better me that I'm going to be in a few years. And then I ended up just in my own head thinking about that, but I did nothing. I stopped going to the gym. I fucking was lackluster about running the business, stopped going to the beach. And then I just had a chat to a mate of mine, Soggy Sean. And he was like, you're doing nothing. Oh, another mate from Overwatch Fitness, actually. They were both like, you're doing nothing. Get out of your own head. Go and do some shit. And I just started doing shit, like the simplest things, man. I'm walking my dog, going to the beach, painting my little figurines, and I feel a fucking million times better just doing that shit.
Yeah.
Instead of looking for the meaning of life and what my bigger purpose is, like just do shit. You'll find it eventually.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. We sort of look for these external influences to guide us when the answer's not really there. It's like it's already with you.
Yeah. Bro, we fucking I don't want to take us down any more rabbit warrens, mate. I think we could talk about this shit all day. I'm going to let you go and live your life, bro. But dude, anything you want to fucking plug before we go about what you're doing now, what you're doing in the future?
No, not overly, mate. If people want to come and train, like, Ryan and I are in the Gap area, so voodoo combat's like we've got a gym there, and not everyone has to fight and compete either. Like, it's just good. We've created a sense of community there where people look after each other and go and have coffee catch-ups and social things. Like, it's about staying connected. And if there's anyone out there that is sort of struggling, like, hopefully, you sort of draw on that experience of what led you to the military in the first place, because that's where you'll kind of find your true self a little bit. Anyone in the Brisbane area that's kind of stuck, I've created the veteran engagement program out at Rheinmetall, and we, people that have been medically separated from defence, we can still put them into a work trial environment, and sort of keep an eye on them that way, and hopefully nurture that into a career pathway for a lot of people. So, I'll give you all my details, mate, and people can sort of hit me up if that's something that might interest them. So, always happy to help. Yeah.
Thanks for sharing that, mate. I'll put that. That'll be in the show notes. There'll be a few links at the bottom of the description. Hey, bro, I'm going to let you go, but thank you so much, man, for coming on the potty. Fuck, man, I had a good old chin, mate. That was heaps of fun, bro. I could keep going, man.
Time goes quick, eh?
Yeah. Bro, thanks for coming on, mate. And fuck, bro, keep doing what you're doing, man, because it's legit fucking really inspiring, bro. So thanks.
No, thank you, mate. Appreciate it.
You're right. Catch you, brother.
See you, mate.
We hope you enjoyed that episode of the Origin Canine podcast. Tune in next week for another episode. In the meantime, go to origincanine.com, check out our safe, innovative and built-for-purpose canine equipment.